think they play the time too close? 3 minutes. And in 1 minute, you watch how.
The time is now 5:27, and we are broadcasting on all platforms.
I'm
You switching spots?
I'm making around. When Sean comes, I'm gonna say, "Come on,
I'm like,
Sean."
this is very confusing
I
for me.
know.
I gotta come ask. Why didn't you just sit at one? It doesn't have a name. You could really get them gossiping. You weren't thinking.
Oh God, I wasn't.
Hey, Roy, get real promoted. Move to 1.
Yeah, I could have been a new one.
You need to go
That's
over
what
there.
she's telling me. I wasn't
Go over
thinking.
there and cause
No.
some ruckus over there.
I'm gonna tell you got to point it to one.
Howdy.
Where you going? Oh, that's not even you. That's
Chaos, constant chaos. 5:27.
I'm arguing with him. So you got to point it to
You got 2 minutes. You got 2 minutes.
He's still, they usually come with him. Well, Jennifer said, you didn't hear about it?
He's moving out west. He's moving out west.
Pointed to Ward 1.
That's awesome.
You didn't hear about it?
Yeah.
So we switched it up.
That's great.
No, he told send him a picture. I'm quite sure he's expecting me.
Yeah.
Send him one here.
The mayor's not.
I sent him one already.
I'm gonna argue.
I sent him one.
Appreciate it. Tell him he's my new seatmate. Yeah. Does the money come with it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm gonna tell him. Goodness. Oh God. Tonight's the money night. If we got rid of this money tonight, we have a really easy budget. So tonight's the night. That, yeah. The midnight night.
Thank you. Who's first? All right.
Get the lead on.
Now what I have down.
Clerk's office.
I had to come and see what it looked like.
Stay there.
It looks different.
Does it look better or worse?
Look, I can't see the side of that ball here now.
The glare is better.
Yeah. Well, it's not.
Courtney,
Yeah.
who's first?
There's no glare over here.
I said
Hear
make
that?
him go last. He wasn't here. I was punishing you, making you go last.
So it's late. Ain't it?
My own office didn't even listen to me.
It is now almost.
It's 5:29.
Oh, my side got. Come on, Sean. You over here.
I've heard you got big shoulders.
Sean, you want to swap with me?
We upgraded.
We're broke.
I don't know if I know how to act.
Sit in Ward 1.
No, Hanover's the new Ward 1. You didn't hear about it? Oh, wait a minute. Are we really?
I'm going to call the budget workshop for Thursday, January 23rd, 2025 to order. If you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Stay there. Mr. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mr. Chairman, we still have a technical difficulty with that, so we're about ready to go. Is it on?
Give Alderman Williams a chance to get to his chair.
Absolutely.
He was incognito.
You just tell us when you're ready, Mr. Clerk, no problem.
Okay, we're ready. Alderman Gregory?
Here.
Alderman Williams?
Here.
Alderman Rockford? Present. Alderman Purchase? Alderwoman Nitriano?
Here.
Alderman Carlson?
Here.
Alderwoman Conley?
Present.
Alderman Donlin?
Here.
Alderman Hanauer. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, everyone, to the final budget workshop of this particular fiscal year. Tonight, we have, not in this order, but we have the police department, fire department, clerk's office, and CWLP. And first, this evening, if you'll join us at the table, Mr. Redpath, is the clerk's office. And just a reminder, Mr. Clerk, put the microphone right up to your mouth. Thank you.
I was going to get the hazing when I got up there.
Chair, do you mind if I chime in for a minute?
Please, Mayor.
Since the clerk is at the table, I would like to acknowledge that Alderwoman Purchase is here.
Welcome. Mr. Clerk.
Good evening. Good evening. This is, of course, my first budget, so I'm a little nervous, so bear with me, but it's going to be okay. First, I want to tell you about the office a little bit. since I've been in place for the last couple of weeks, we've been doing our best to try to get things up off the ground. As you know, when the last clerk left, there was 2 employees left, and they were doing 5 people's jobs. So this budget is going to reflect a little bit of an increase, and only because we want to bring back the deputy clerk's position. There is no real chain of command in that office, and it's been really obstructive for the people that had to work there. We had employees supervising employees, and it caused a really heated situation and sometimes chaotic. So since I've been in the office, the first thing I did was put together a position for the FOIA keeper for the city. I also was able to hire a part-time person to come in, a 30-year veteran of the office to come in and start with the records retention area, which was in need of a lot of help. So those are 2 things we started with right off the bat. So what our office does, we serve the official record keeper of the city of Springfield, maintains the corporate seal of the city of Springfield, produces and posts agendas of the city council meeting, automatic committees, and any special meetings that may be scheduled once the agenda, resolutions, zoning docket items pass or fail. It's the responsibility of the city clerk office to record all the information and make it available to the public electronically in minute format. To conduct city council automatic committees and special meetings for live public viewing along with the register of all votes. Post notices of all meetings, maintain file systems for records retention and records disposal. This is done with the authorization of the Illinois Secretary of State's Archive Division pursuant to the Local Records Act 50 ILCS 205. As a local registrar for all of Sangamon County, thanks to this city council who came forward, and we voted to keep that here, because if we had lost the registrar situation, it would have been a very large monetary deficit for the city of Springfield. As a local registrar for Sangamon County, and the city clerk's office registers all birth, death records for Sangamon County. They work closely with the Illinois Department of Public Health and vital records using the shared data system called IRIS. Accepts and completes requests for public records pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act, Act 5 ILCS 140 FOIA. Acts as the administrative court clerk for the city of Springfield, stores all files, statements, and reports. They preserve all audio records and all court proceedings that are required by law in order to preserve the defendant's right to appeal a ruling by the administrative court hearing officer. Issue many different licenses such as bowling alleys, florists, fireworks, funeral homes, dry cleaners, video gaming operators, and many more. We take roll call and prepare minutes for the standardization and specification meetings weekly, as well as maintaining both paper and electronic copies for the minutes. I need to get a drink of water. The next slide is going to show the workforce that we've had in place since 22. And as you can see, we are authorized 5 employees. This year, we are down to 2 employees, and we're going to the positions are still in place, and we're going to put them back into service, and we're adding their deputy clerk's position, as I told you. Next part is the budget. As you can see, we have an increase in the personal services area. In the budget, you'll see the increase. This comes mainly from personal services that includes new position and the obligated negotiated union raises, 12% increase in retirement contributions, a slight increase in Social Security contributions, and a big increase in employee insurance. That's a big one. So that's the just of the increase in that line item. Other than that, most of the we have a contractual services that went up last year, and it stayed the same. I think for $50 more this year. So the overall increase in the budget for the whole year is 22.9%, and that's based on those moves. The workload, and this is pretty significant. We bring in $209,336.57. That's the total revenues for birth, death, printed certificates, including postage. This is a $41,660 increase from last year. Business licenses, we issued 351 liquor license, miscellaneous 517, gaming licenses 307, and operators licenses 10. These increase daily. Excuse me. Last year, we passed 505 ordinances, 27 passed resolutions. The FOIA area is a major increase. We had 6,017 last year, and the FOIA request went up, what was it, 4,500? And the average daily requests we get are 23. Sometimes we get 10, sometimes we get 40. It just depends on what the FOIAs are looking for. The 3,322 square foot retention of documents, that's the disposal of how many documents we dispose of every year. When I was talking to you about the records retention area, we put an employee up there to start making sure that the documents are all in the proper places and checking the files to make sure everything's lined up. But there's a lot of areas that need work up there. And what she's gonna do is start breaking it down. We have empty boxes we have anywhere between 400 and 500 empty boxes up there that they store files in. Once they do the disposal, they leave those boxes there. So we are gonna break those boxes down and offer them up to the different departments because my daughter told me that her office has to pay between $8 and $10 per box. So we got 400 to 500 boxes that we're gonna break down, and anybody that needs the boxes, that'll save you a little bit of money. The goals of our office are to continue to strive for accuracy and precision, be as transparent as possible by making more and more information available to the public online, continue our activities, advertise that all birth and death records are only $17 for the first certificate and $7 for additional certificates. Hire more employees, which we're basically filling positions that are already there other than the new clerk's position. Continue to keep the internal office up to date with any changes or updates for FOIA and retention guidelines. That's pretty much what we got. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Yes, there are questions. And first is Alderman Carlson.
Chuck, just real quick, what's the timeline on the new employees? I mean, is this a couple-month process? I know it takes time, but.
The first day I was there, I put in for the FOIA retention person. I called a expert at the state of Illinois who handles FOIAs, and she's gonna come in and give us some training. And when I brought that up, Corporation Counsel said we should be giving it to every department. So every department that has FOIA people, we're gonna set up a class so those people can come in and be trained on the FOIA stuff. When FOIAs get behind, it's really hard to catch up. So that's the biggest part.
So fully staffed, do you think it'll be a few months before you're fully staffed?
I know the position that I got for the FOIA position closed today, I believe, and we're gonna start looking at the applications tomorrow. And fortunately, we had 32 applicants, so hopefully we can find somebody. You know, it's not an easy job. It really isn't. You gotta make sure that there's a timeline for every FOIA that you have to put out, and the documentation and the records part of it is a pretty integral part.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman. Next up is Alderman Gregory.
Thank you, Clerk Redpath. Thank you for the presentation. Minutes. I think our minutes are just more of a statement than a question. I think those are very, very important to make sure they're there. There's been some times where I, wanted to go back and look at the conversation and those things was not there. So I just want to make that comment that those things are very, very important.
And let me just interject. I've been working with. I got to give kudos to a lot of the administrative staff and the mayor, because the budget people and the HR and the IT people have been really helpful.
James Sullivan.
James, I would have known that, but James that works in IT has shown me programs that he's got that's going to help increase our productivity.
Okay.
And one of them is, there's a thing I believe called minutes for minutes.
Okay.
And those are the ones that'll help us generate those a lot quicker. So
Okay.
we are looking at technology as we go through.
Okay. That would go in line with, I know at one point in time, we wanted to just a general assessment on whether we can go from so much paper to maybe iPads or on our computers and you know, where are we at with that?
That's something we're looking at, and as you know, fortunately, being able to sit up there and see the stuff that.
Forgive me, Clerk, please lean into the microphone. Thank you so much.
The things that we wanted to do, I've seen some of the stuff we want to do, and we are going to move to in that direction. I know Alderwoman Conley brought some proposals and ideas to me, as well as Alderman Hanauer. So
Okay. All right, I appreciate you. And on the employee side, I'm in total agreement with filling the ones that we have. So so you're authorized 5, are you planning on going 6 employees there?
No, it
Okay.
will be.
Within that 5?
It'll be 5.
Okay.
Yeah, not
Okay.
counting myself.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I definitely am in agreement with the deputy clerk being there just for various reasons, and as well as what we're doing. And my last question, I know there was some talk throughout the process about a manual or anything like that. Have you sorted through that thing?
When I got in there, I found out some of the manuals weren't there.
Okay.
So, with my staff, we've been working to reconstruct those manuals and put them together. So we will have everything, all the job description and the manuals for everything we have will be in that office as soon as we can put it together.
Okay.
I can tell you that when I walked into this situation, it was an area of exclusion and not inclusion. And these poor folks that were in there were strapped and overworked. We're going to make it an inclusion area, and we're going to be a team. And this is not about Chuck Redpath. It's not about anybody else. It's about making sure that we do the best job we can in the clerk's office. And these employees are worth gold. And we're going to make sure that by bringing these new people in, we can start to divide the work back where it's supposed to go. Somebody shouldn't be doing FOIAs and record keeping at the same time. You can't keep up with it. It's an all-day job, every day. These guys sometimes don't take their lunch hours because they got to work through, but they do get their breaks and their lunch hours, but they work hard.
Absolutely.
I'm going to support them. I'm going to make sure they have the tools to do what they have to do to make. And in 2.5 years, when I walk out this door, this office is going to be in better shape than it ever was. Norma Graves started this in 1987 when I first came on the city council. She was an outstanding lady, and I'm going to bring it back to that standard. I promise.
I appreciate that, and I agree. You do have some good employees. I've worked with them. They've done a good job in many instances. So I appreciate you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman. Next up is Alderwoman Conley.
Thank you. And thank you, Alderman Gregory, for asking one of my bigger questions, which was that e-board meeting materials. So I'm going to stick to just one, because this has come up and I've had some people ask about it. Because your office controls vital records and distributes copies of those, who can come in and see copies of someone's birth records? Of their birth records? Can anyone just come in and get a copy of that?
Wait,
or?
Joanne Judge is the acting deputy director right now, and she'll be in that position until we put in a deputy director.
Thank you, Joanne.
Welcome. You asked.
So who can come in and see copies of birth records, death records? Can anyone request anyone's records, or is there a protocol to that? How does that process work for you?
So it would be either parent, as long as they bring a photo ID.
So I can't come in and get your birth records, is
No.
that right? Okay, and in terms of distribution, do you give them out in paper, or are they electronic?
They are in paper, a special security paper, that if you photocopy it, the words void would be all over it. So yeah.
Okay, and just because we know in Illinois it is possible for people to make changes to their birth records if if there are gender identity updates that they need to make to their records, are those updates transmitted to you, and how are those handled?
So those are handled at the state level through the Department of Vital Records for the state. So we don't handle any type of birth record amendments. We do minor corrections within the first year. Say if their middle name was spelled wrong, or place of birth for parents were wrong, that's considered minor correction. but major corrections are handled at the state level.
Okay, thank you. So you do not have the authority to make any changes to those records?
No, not the gender markers or changing the last name considered major corrections.
If someone makes that change at the state, is that updated record sent to you?
As long as it's Sangamon County, we can see that it's been updated.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're
Appreciate it.
We do get a lot of requests from outside of Sangamon County, people coming through the state, and they want to pick up their records, and we have to refer them to the state, unfortunately, because, and right now, the way the system's set up, they can't go in and get them. They have to go online and file for them, and so we get an enormous amount of phone calls, people asking for that. They're not in our jurisdiction, and I've got to call into them to see if we can streamline that a little bit, too.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to these e-board paper-free meetings.
Yes, so are we.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Any further questions of the clerk and his staff? Seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. Thank you very much. And we're going to switch. Next up is the Police Department. Give the clerk an opportunity to get to his seat.
Yeah, you can.
That didn't sound good.
Man, I got two things.
Thank you.
Alvin's like, I'll get it.
I'm good. I'm on meds.
But you?
I'm on meds. I got some jobs.
But that was a long way.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You can go if you need to go.
This gentleman picked up your phone.
Oh, okay. I was just like, go ahead.
Cases, because I do that.
Yeah. Okay, next up is the Springfield Police Department, Chief Scarlett.
Thanks, Chair, appreciate that, and good evening, Mayor and Council.
Put it all the way up, Chief. It's
Okay,
it doesn't-
let me get close to this.
Thank you.
I feel like there's some germs right there. I'm going to be very careful. Nothing against our clerk.
That's you.
Well, good evening. Again, it's an honor and a privilege to serve as our community as a chief of police. And this responsibility, as you all know, carries much weight, a lot of which bears down figuratively and literally on the shoulders of every staff member here with us this evening. And the commitment of every officer of the Springfield Police Department remains unwavering, and I'm proud to be here this evening representing the heroes whose passion and mission it is to work in concert with our cities for the safety, citizens for the safety of all. So myself and the senior staff, a majority of which are present with us this evening, have worked meticulously to prepare and now present a budget that reflects the efforts to attract and retain a professional workforce while providing expeditious service to our citizens. And before we begin, I'll make just a few brief introductions, and notably absent from tonight's meeting is Assistant Chief Joe Beal. Assistant Chief Beal is actually currently attending the prestigious FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. And upon his graduation, he will join Deputy Chief Andrew Dodd, who sits with me today, as one of the two only active members of the Springfield Police Department who have been given this opportunity. So it's pretty cool that he's out there right now. So at the table with me this evening, Deputy Chief Josh Stunkel, Deputy Chief Andrew Dodd, and Deputy Chief Sarah Pickford on the end down there. Seated behind me is Commander Ron Williams and our fiscal analyst Calvin Gaskell. So without further ado, we will begin our budget summary. Go ahead, Josh. There we go. So department structure, we still maintain 3 divisions. This has not changed in many years. And if we talk about each individual division, we'll begin with the operations division. Again, much of this is very similar from years past, with the exception of the motor unit. The motor unit became operational on June 14th of 2024, and since that time, they've taken part in numerous parades, funeral details, and community engagement efforts, as well as traffic control. So the operations division is led by Deputy Chief Andrew Dodd and Commander Ryan Leach. Next, we have the Criminal Investigations Division. Again, not much has changed on this slide. The Criminal Investigations Division is led by Deputy Chief Sarah Pickford and Commander Ron Williams. This previous year, we added a discovery compliance specialist to assist in the efficient exchange of information with the state's attorney's office. We also implemented a new 3D crime laser scanner, which has significantly reduced time on crime scenes. Our final division is the Administrative Services Division. And
It's not working.
there we go. So the Administrative Services Division is led by Deputy Chief Josh Dunkel, and essentially this division covers everything with the exception of operations and communications, to include putting this budget together for us. So one thing I will highlight real quick is our training division, the Springfield Police Academy. The individuals that work out there do a phenomenal job to bring real and relevant training to our officers, and that will continue to be a commitment of all of us here at the Springfield Police Department. Next slide would be our workforce. Again, we're asking to maintain the current authorized strength of 269 officers. As of January 6th, we're actually at 249 officers, so we're about 20 short. We continue to hire 3 classes a year. Specifically, in the calendar year of 2024, the Springfield Police Department hired 34 officers. 6 of those were lateral officers, and 29% were minority officers. Next would be our civilian workforce. We're asking for an increase in headcount by 1. We are adding the real-time information center, which we'll speak of momentarily, and that will be housed by a civilian employee. So more to come on that. So if we talk about, next slide, reviewing 2024 by the numbers. Calls for service were up 2.4% to just over 105,000 calls. Springfield Police Department made over, 579 juvenile arrests, which, believe it or not, are up 25% from the previous year. And I was just here on Tuesday night. We talked about an increase in car theft and car burglaries, and the fact that three juveniles were responsible for at least 40 of those in one setting. So the good news is that the Juvenile Detention Center is now open and beginning to roll out. So that's an added benefit that we have once again in our community. The Springfield Police Department recovered 505 firearms. This is illegal firearms, excuse me. This is a new record high for our agency and a 15% increase from the year past. The good news is that confirmed shots fired was actually down by 18%. So our continued proactive efforts to remove illegal firearms for our street is paying off. The final number to talk about is pretty interesting. Officer Monica Dorsey, the neighborhood police officer, brought the Books and Badges program to our agency, and multiple officers with our department, including our staff, have taken part in reading to 600 kindergartners throughout District 186, and that's just one of over 100 community events that our department has taken part in. So community engagement continues to be a vital and important piece that I will certainly support. We'll talk about some accomplishments from the fiscal year 2025. Let's go back one there. Can you go back one slide, please? There we go. So from a personnel perspective, we've expanded our neighborhood police officer unit, added 2 bodies. That would be a downtown neighborhood police officer and a Lake Patrol neighborhood police officer. We expanded our traffic unit, which includes the motors that we spoke of previously, as well as added a DUI car for specific DUI patrols. And we have reimagined our traffic wardens and created a new position entitled the Community Service Officer position, and this acts as a homegrown recruiting tool where essentially this community service officer will have some traffic warden functions and some minor police-related function, accident investigation, et cetera, and the hope is that they would then be interested in becoming a law enforcement officer. So it just goes along with our recruiting efforts. Programs that were accomplished in 2025 continue to expand our Fusus real-time platform. We now have well over 1,000 video feeds at our officers' fingertips while responding to calls for service. We already discussed the motor unit. We're transitioning to the Axon AB4 body-worn cameras. This was all part of the current Axon contract. We also added a live scan fingerprint system, which was provided through grant funds. This helps facilitate Safety Act requirements as well as expeditious identification in the field. So I'm going to let Josh talk about some of the grants that we have going on currently.
So the grants we've highlighted here are ones we received in FY 2025. First one there is the co-responder co-pilot program, state funded. That is primarily directed towards homelessness. This is our second round of funding. It's $2.8 million. Several of those approvals are on first reading this week and will be discussed at the committee meeting next week. We've added District 186 and their peace rooms, as well as Hope Springs this year in that funding. Second one is our co-responder grant. This is federally funded for crisis response. It's our fourth year. This year it's $300,000, and this funds the social workers who ride along with police officers. We've expanded the hours of that program. We're now doing 92 hours a week, including 6 days a week and 4 nights per week, where there's a social worker riding with officers responding to those calls for service. And last year we had over 500 incidents where these units responded together. Next is the COPS Technology Grant. We've talked a little bit about Real-Time Information Center. This grant is going to fund a lot of the build-out and expansion of our live view camera. For that, that is a federal grant, $300,000. And Organized Retail Crime Grant is our third year of funding for this grant. It funds Fusus, some license plate readers, as well as overtime for details related to retail crime.
All right, thanks, Josh. If you could hit the next slide, please. All right, so again, from a funding source for the Springfield Police Department, we have multiple funds that we use, a majority of which are restricted funds for specific purchases. But for purposes of this presentation, we'll talk specifically on the corporate fund. Next slide. So if you look at the budget by cost center for all funds, I would direct you to that bottom right number, which would be a very minimal increase of 1.26% for the fiscal year 2026. And the next slide will discuss the corporate fund by cost center. Now that number has gone up to 2.84%, and if you look at the lines, and we'll discuss them momentarily, a majority of all lines are either flat or down with the exception of our personnel services line. That one is up and up maybe more than normal because of an added $1.6 million increase to the pension contribution. Next slide, please. So again, if we went through these corporate budget lines by object code, personal services, as I mentioned, is up 6.72%. Contractual services is down nearly 7%. Commodities is down 14.5%, even though things that we purchase seem to be going up due to inflation. We're able to control those costs. Equipment is relatively flat. Next slide, please. Our EDP is down nearly 8%. Telecom remains somewhat flat. Permanent improvements, is down by half. A lot of the improvements that we're doing throughout this police department municipal center east area, we've completed with the exception of a few minor ones. And then finally, travel is down by 20%. Next slide. So if we just talk about what exactly is on the horizon for FY 2026, first one that I have mentioned multiple times from this platform is the Real-Time Information Center. Again, we have $300,000 that will assist with a build-out. Essentially, we will create a room where an individual will sit in there, monitor live cameras, our body-worn cameras, our license plate readers. They will have access to record information, and as calls for service come out, their job is to focus specifically on that call so that the officer can focus on driving to the call and provide that officer the real-time information they need to keep the officer safe and to hopefully help solve crime in a more efficient manner. Next is the transition to TASER 10. I'm going to let Josh talk briefly on that.
Very briefly, this was included in the ordinance that passed late last year. It's part of our Axon program. The implementation of that program will be in April during our in-service. You'll start to see these issued to officers. TASER is, primary, less lethal alternative and de-escalation tool for our officers. The new model provides some key alternatives, key advantages, including 45-foot range compared to the previous model, which only went 21 feet, and individually targeted probes. Previously, officers had to line up 2 lasers in order to utilize the device. Now they will shoot those probes individually, more similar to a firearm, which will misses more successful. There's also increased data tracking, including when the device is removed from the holster.
Okay, the next goal and initiative is the implementation of a gun crime task force. That's something that myself and federal partners with the ATF actually announced this morning. I'm very excited about this opportunity. It brings additional federal partnerships and resources right here to our community to combat gun violence and serious violent crime. So looking forward to successes from that. And as I mentioned, we took a record number of firearms off the street, and our shots fired may have been down, but our shootings of individuals was actually up slightly. So my goal and the goal of this task force is to help reduce some of this gun violence that we continue to be plagued with in our community. I'm going to let Andy talk briefly about the implementation of the 10-hour schedule.
We were able to, at the beginning of this year, transition from the 12-hour shifts that we've been on for numerous years and move to a 10-hour rotating schedule. A few of the advantages of that is 12 hours, officers work the same people every day. Field officers basically split in two. The 10-hour rotating schedule allows multiple officers to work with a variety of different officers and supervisors every day. The shorter shift length is transitioning to less fatigue for the officers when they're working, which is a huge benefit. There's 2 blocks of time during the day, during our peak hours, where the shifts overlap, so we have additional officers for different details, traffic details, problem area policing, in addition to shorter call wait times during those peak hours, which is being a huge help to us. And also the more consistent training, working more days in a row is being beneficial for our new recruits as they go through the field training program.
Okay, last but not least, the last thing of the last slide, which was a suggestion by someone up there in that horseshoe, was to bring back the bikes. And we're actually bringing electric bikes. We have an e-bike initiative. So the thought is that getting our officers out of squad cars and on bicycles in the downtown area as well as neighborhoods can help with that community policing aspect. And so we have a generous partnership with a local business, and they are willing to purchase all the necessary equipment for the Springfield Police Department to make this e-bike initiative a success. So there'll be more coming on that partnership in the very near future, but we are rolling out this e-bike initiative as soon as the weather breaks. I'll say that. That concludes my presentation. I'll be certainly happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Alderman Rockford.
Thanks, Chair. Chief, you mentioned the 269 head count that you'd like to keep. Right now, we're at 249. Is that going to increase at all? I know do we have a swearing-in next week maybe, or?
Yes, so we're swearing in individuals next week. We have individuals at various levels of training from at the academy right now. Some just got back and we're swearing them in. Some are in field training program. I have, I believe, 6 lateral interviews over the next week that we could hire as soon as they pass the process. We're also interviewing the next round of entry-level applicants, and they would be hired late April for a May class. So we hire 3 times a year because that's when the academy classes are.
Well, that head count may increase then?
Well, my goal is that it definitely increases.
Okay.
And there's just ebbs and flows. Obviously, we've had a handful of retirements
Yes.
and whatnot.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman. Chief, building upon that question, you said 3 classes are offered per year. Could you just very briefly explain where the training occurs? And then we have a training center here, and like how that transition works. I think that'd be helpful for the public.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I'll just talk through the whole process. So when we hire individuals, they spend 2 weeks at our Springfield Police Academy where they get some in-house training, some HR stuff, get them familiarized with being on the payroll, et cetera. We send them then off to the Macon County Law Enforcement Training Center, which is in Decatur. That's a state-sponsored 16-week academy. It's kind of like a cross between boot camp and college. They complete that, graduate, take a state certification test. Once they pass that, they come back to our academy and spend another 5 weeks where our officers teach them additional detailed training, stuff that's required through ILETSB, and just give them some more nuts and bolts before they hit the street. Once they finish that 5 weeks, they then go into the field training program, which is on-the-job training, riding with an officer. and that's a minimum of 22 weeks. So if you add all that up, from the time we hire someone, it's essentially 45 weeks before they become a certified on their own police officer. We can only hire 3 times a year because the academy classes only offer those 3 times a year.
Thank you for that explanation, Chief. Alderwoman Conley.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chief, and to all of your staff for coming in tonight. We appreciate your time and the detail in this. A couple of questions. I'm going to start at the end, actually. So you talked about training, and that's something that we've prioritized in funding and making sure that that was available. Could you just kind of give, so people are aware, kind of a brief summary of some of the topics and areas where our officers get trained in, and what sort of other, like, who do you contract with if you have outside people come in and provide training, and what those cover?
Yeah, so there's very specific mandates that come down from the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board that says each law enforcement officer to be certified essentially has to complete these certain hours and topics of training, and all that's on the state's website. On top of that, we provide up to 40 hours for every officer, which includes in-service training. So we have topics on use of force, de-escalation, reviewing general orders as it pertains to sexual harassment. We have training on responding to CWLP awareness. We have high-risk vehicle stops. I mean, so there's all sorts of different categories of training. I'm leaving probably 80% of them out as I sit here and try and think of things.
I can tell you are, sorry. And I didn't have time to reach out and just ask you to bring some of those notes with you, so I appreciate it. But it certainly is a priority. The other priority, and we've talked about it in years past, and I know it's not really kind of in this, but how are you doing on vehicles? Please update us on that.
Yeah, so I will say this, we've asked for, I believe, only 6 vehicles this year. I think that was to help do our part to keep some of the budgetary costs at a minimum. I will say that we can always use more vehicles, and you never know what happens from one day to the next as it pertains to accidents, vehicles going down, et cetera. So in a perfect world, I would have I presented a cyclical vehicle replacement plan, I believe it was last year, and we should be asking for 12 squad cars every year.
That was kind of why I was asking. So you are asking for fewer cars this year.
That is correct.
To keep your budget reasonable.
Correct.
But should things look better by maybe mid-year, we could have another conversation about this?
I would love to have that conversation,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you for that. And then kind of on that, I will tell you, because I would be remiss, and I'm sure you'll probably hear that from some of my other people around the horseshoe, continue to get on a regular basis complaints about traffic issues. Running red lights, speeding. I just got pictures of someone who drove right into a utility pole outside of SHG. It continues to be one of those quality of life concerns for people in the community. And I'd just like to give you a chance to kind of expand on what you're going to be doing to enhance the traffic unit, and what people should expect to see maybe some more enforcement on these traffic-related issues.
Appreciate that. And I too would say in front of everyone in Springfield, I am very frustrated myself because I see the same thing that everyone else sees. And it is disheartening to think that people can't follow simple rules. And so our agency is committed. That is part of the motor unit. That is one of the responsibilities. That's why we've added a DUI card to not only address regular traffic, but those that are driving under the influence in the evening hours. We have this overlap with the new scheduling system that allows for more officers during peak travel times, that we will, essentially assign those officers to specific traffic details in various areas that I continue to hear from all of you, as well as, friends and family of my own I hear about. So
I'm glad they're reaching out to you too.
yeah, absolutely.
Good. So that, and I want to just say thank you for that 10-hour that shift. And allowing us to have that overlap. I think that certainly will be heartening to people to see that we have more police on the streets when we know there are more people out. I especially get concerns during, school pickup and drop-off times. I can't tell you how many times people reach out like, I saw someone speeding right by a stopped bus, and things like that are safety concerns for, for everyone. That's one that really makes me see red. But so thank you for that. I appreciate it. And just real quick, Chief Stunkel, I want to thank you for for the interactions we had around the homeless grants. Obviously, I had some very significant concerns with contractors who were coming in and working with our community and using a system that was different than the system that our social services use. So I just want to tell you, I've heard back with real improvements and some positive, a positive direction in that. And I want to thank you personally and in front of everyone for your attention to that. It really is important. We know that addressing the unhoused in our community is a critical role, and you're serving a big role in this. 2.8 million is a lot of money. We want to make sure that's really fitting in nicely with our community providers, our service providers. So just thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So you didn't even need the mic. Thank you, Chief. I think that's it for now.
Thank you. Alderman Carlson.
Let me ask a little differently. I think Alderwoman Conley had my question, but specifically speeding. I mean, the dynamic, is there a little correlation if you hire 5 more officers, 10 more officers, we can get a couple more in the traffic division, or, what's that dynamic?
Yeah, so part of the hiring plan that I presented last year was when we get to that 269 head count, that we would have additional bodies to be able to spread out to various specialty positions to include traffic, but also to bolster our narcotics team and our detectives. I mean, so there's all sorts of areas within the agency that need additional manpower. So, but traffic was certainly one of those.
Well, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Gregory.
Thank you, Chair. So a few things. Chief, I'm on the grant funding page, so I'll start there. So we had 2.8 plus $300,000 dealing with our unhoused population, mental health, and co-responder. And this is the second round, correct? And the first one was what, 3.1?
That's correct. On the 2.8 on the state funding.
On the state one, and then the one before, was they both 2.8, or the first one was 3?
The other one was 3.1.
3.1 and 2.8. So altogether, that's like $10 million plus the seed money, correct?
There is no actual funding with seed. The 2.8 million is kind of associated with the seed.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. So with that, without adding anything to it, that's like $10 million. So I say this to compliment you on really, really going and being aggressive and getting some funding here. Set aside from what we've done from city council point, we take a lot of heat about this unsheltered thing and about what we're not doing. But what we have done and pushed across since I've been here is trying to find as much funding as we can to remedy this problem. Not problem, but this issue that we have of people suffering. And our numbers haven't changed much. We're still at the same balance. It's getting tough and tougher, right? And we're looking for more and more funding. So I guess, we're getting the funding then. We got mental health people riding with y'all. So I think what I'm looking for is the effectiveness of what we're doing. You see what I'm saying? Like when we go out with our mental health, when we're tag team and we're going to meet with that call, that may be that situation. What are those outcomes looking like? What is it an unsheltered person that we're getting housed or in a hotel or something? And are we keeping track with them, or are they going back into this number?
I think the two are separate issues. We have the homeless outreach team and the service providers who are helping out with the homeless population. The co-responder crisis response group is a little bit different. They're not necessarily responding out to those same instances.
Right.
Mike Newman and Shannon Allen, who are working together every day, with our homeless population, they are having an impact every day. Okay. Yes, and the number of people that we are housed, I don't have that in front of me, but we are having an impact. I think you're right when you say that those numbers don't really change. As we continue to get people housing in our community, we continue to have other people who become unhoused or who come to our community who are unhoused. Right. And so that's going to be a constant struggle for our community, and even more so as we get more providers and more services.
Okay.
So on the mental health corresponder, that is the social workers riding with police officers responding to crisis incidents.
Right.
Mike and Shannon and our homeless response is a little bit more proactive.
Okay.
So the crisis response, that is a social worker riding around with a police officer, and responding to an incident that could be dispatch, based on the caller saying, hey, we think we need a social worker, we need that mobile crisis response to come out. It could be the officer and the social worker listening to the radio and saying, hey, that sounds like something I should be involved in,
Right.
or maybe I recognize that address or
Right.
name, and I'm gonna go to that. Or it could be an officer who gets out on a scene and says, I think we could use a little additional help here, and we'd like to have that unit come respond.
No,
That's how we're addressing
I
those.
think it's a fabulous, fabulous opportunity for us to have with our officers, right? We know why. So, but I guess what I'm trying to drive home the point that we all need to work on of showing our community is that, hey, we got mental health professionals riding with, a situation that needed that, and that resolution was, whatever it is, and that we could share, successful like this. This is how it helped, and things of that nature. But just my thoughts on that. I don't want to
Well, I think I have
belabor that.
one thing that might show the success, and not specifically of our program, but mobile crisis response as a group. Memorial provided us with some stats, and one of those was in the last quarter, they had more evaluations done in the field than they had in the emergency room.
Okay, nice.
So we are saving officers' time, we're being more efficient because we're handling those evaluations out in the field.
Right.
Those individuals aren't going to the emergency room, so they're not taking up
Right.
time and community resources in the emergency room.
Right.
And it was it was, I believe, 280 more evaluations in the
Nice.
field than they had in the emergency room. It was the first time that they'd had more
Right.
last quarter.
No, I think it's a wonderful program because, my final point on that, if we get to somebody who maybe they're having whatever type of outburst or whatever because they're not taking their medicine, and the mental health associate helped us get a relationship to where we can at least talk to them to help them. Has that person, got that? Are we keeping that type of relationship to ensure that help's not needed, or are we addressing it then and it's good now, and now we're maybe somebody down the line for responsibility to keep that up, because ultimately it rolls back to us, and then we got to deal with it again. And I guess I'm just trying to say, how are we trying to making sure that it's going all the way through? It's leaving us, it's going to the mental health professional, to the doctor, and rolling back, because it's starting with us with the money. I know it's tough questions. I know.
That's part of when and the advantage of having that social worker in the car with the officer after they have that response. Now you have someone who can continue that follow-up with that case. If an officer goes out and responds and takes someone to the hospital, the officer's not going to
Correct.
respond. Now with that social worker in the car with the officer, they're able to take on that and follow up with that individual in the future.
All right, I appreciate you. I'll go away from that one. Now, Chief, you spoke on the one staff member for the live feed type of deal and things of that nature.
Yes.
200-plus officers, one person. Like, are we looking for them to, we might have multiple situations where they need to do that. How does that work with them trying to help?
So we're building out the facility, the physical space, to have 4 desks.
Okay.
Essentially, so you will have more people in there.
Okay.
I think as we slow roll this out, the thought is hire one, that person will work an 8-hour shift a day. Now, what we do have available to us is officers, sometimes get hurt or whatnot, or on light duty, so we can put them in that room as well to provide a very similar function, yes.
I was just asking for, one worker working on the
I'd be more
desk.
happy to put a couple more in there.
All right, and my final question, Chief, and I know, my seatmate used to ask it a lot, about, minorities in our command staff, and I will compliment the department on, some sergeants. I know some guys just went from sergeants, they got sergeant and things, and, I hope that we're encouraging them to continue on, so as, no disrespect, you guys get older and retire and stuff, I see some gray there, that we're able to, I got a little bit too.
Yeah, that's you.
I got a little bit too. I got a little bit too.
You have more than me.
But, as and whatever's next to come take command and things after you guys, that we will finally start getting back into where we got a little diversity up front. But I surely appreciate Ms. Pick for being up there for sure. I'm not missing that point.
Appreciate that comment, and it is, on my mind, a concern of mine. And I will say that as we continue to hire young, intelligent individuals who are great police officers like Nick Ward standing in the back, they're going places, right? And I'm going to let you in on a little secret that someone mentioned the swearing-in ceremony. On the 29th, I'll be also doing a promotion ceremony, and it'll be my opportunity, or the mayor's opportunity, to promote another African-American male to sergeant. So we are making strides, for sure. Now, here's the thing. I need to ensure that individuals who want to continue the progression have the mentorship necessary to teach them and lead them and guide them, and that's something that we need to be able to provide as an agency. So.
Appreciate you, Chief. Thank you. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Next up is Alderwoman Purchase.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to go back to Josh. So we're in, you highlighted a lot. So I can't remember everything, but one of the main things you said was with Memorial, how they have done a lot of, surveys?
Mental health
Evaluations. So you just told us a lot, and that was something good to tell us, but we don't really know about it. So I'm always asking every department. We hear a lot during budget, but then throughout the year we hear not a lot and have to be a little reactive. So maybe this upcoming year, that's your particular area that you do a good job in. Can you just give us updates on how the grants are going, especially since it's a real sensitive topic around, I don't want to use the wrong word, unhoused population, but to get more updates of what's going on under the grants like SEED. We had to learn from all the agencies coming in, and it was a long discussion, but maybe if we could see a little bit more from you of what's happening and taking place, that could be real helpful. And I know we can call you, we can send emails, I can come over and see you, but I think that's something that the entire community needs to hear about.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then going to Chief Scarlett. Thank you for the e-bikes. So with that, it's mainly for our neighborhood police officers and downtown officers, like even when we have events going on, big events such as St. Patrick's Day, the Fat Ass 5K, like things like that for them to move around?
Yeah, that's a perfect opportunity to, again, to use it from a law enforcement function, but also be able to engage with the community.
I know it's new, so do you think we're gonna have to, like, maintenance, do you think that'll be a lot, or what do you foresee with this so that it doesn't go away?
Well, the maintenance on these e-bikes will be provided by this local business, so
Okay.
the maintenance portion will be
Taken care of, so we don't have to worry about that?
Yeah, now, obviously, with wear and tear and whatnot, we'll have to think about a replacement plan in the future, but I think we're good to go to get it up and running.
I'm excited to see that and see it within our neighborhoods, because a lot of our officers do get out their cars, and I've seen some of our officers in Enos Park actually playing in the park with the kids or just stopping to say hi, and I think being on their bikes is going to have a huge impact too, moving around.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for taking that into mind after you got 2 nice motorcycles. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Up again is Alderwoman Conley.
And I apologize, I just wanted a really quick clarification. When you talk about the increase in, I guess this is for you, Officer Snunkle, or Chief Snunkle, increase in infield evaluations for mental health, is that increase solely from our co-responder model?
The way the stat was provided to me, it was mobile crisis response, so that can also include their phone system that they utilize, not specifically just our system.
But it is still fairly significant.
Yes.
Because I know that's one of the things people complain to me about too, is, you know, going to the emergency room when people are using that as you know, other kinds of crisis intervention. It's really encouraging to see this. So thank you very much for that clarification, though. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderwoman Nutriano.
Thank you, Chair. This is another co-responder question for you. So the 2.8, that includes Shannon and Mike's salary?
Portion of their salary only.
Okay.
Most of those funds are going to service providers in our community to help increase capacity in the community.
Okay. So when Mike and Shannon came up here and talked to us about their jobs, they were saying that they needed help. Is that help forthcoming?
So I believe that was discussed, Director Ethan Posey actually has that in his budget to increase the headcount for the community care coordinators. So that's where Shannon Allen actually resides, headcount-wise, under community relations. So he did add one additional individual to his budget.
Okay. Thanks. I will say it's disappointing that it's just going to be one person. Yeah. And, yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Anybody else have a question of the chief and his team while they're up here?
Yeah, Chair, could I just?
Yes, Alderman Rockford.
Chief, I think one thing I've been asked about is your Citizens Police Academy. A couple of people have wanted to do it and haven't seen anything. I think you had one maybe in the fall. And I think I went through it with Alderwoman
went
Conley.
together, yep.
I think it's a great thing. I think a lot of people should get out there and get involved in that academy and see what really goes on. You know, it's very interesting and a lot of on hand.
It's very informative, and we do offer that late summer, early fall, and it's generally a 7 or 8 week course. Now, one thing we had talked about is maybe changing that up to offer, you know, just a 4-hour segment of that for people that can't commit a full 8-week time frame. This would be one opportunity, again, to showcase a lot of the technology, a lot of the tools, a lot of the training that Springfield Police Department has. And I've said it numerous times, there's one thing that we struggle with, it's really communicating to the public of the great work that we do and the great technology that we have, thanks to you all. So we can certainly work on that.
And when, you know, one of the complaints is that they don't see enough advertising or don't know where to go. And so I don't know if between the communications director, the office, and the police department, more advertisement. I don't know how you'd handle that, but no, I think it's a good thing. And yeah, it is very eye-opening. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman. And now for the third time, Alderwoman Conley.
Oh, we're keeping count now, okay.
I'm just kidding.
6 on a paper.
I got no problem with that. Couple of things. First of all, Alderman Rockford, I think you made a really good point, and one of the contingencies that we put in with these electronic billboards was the opportunity to use that for public service announcements. So that would be a really great way to publicize the Citizens Academy. It really was an amazing experience. I was very grateful to have that opportunity. But what you just mentioned, a 4-hour kind of a condensed version of that, that's a great idea. I think having more citizens have access to an understanding and an awareness of what you have and what we offer our officers, or what our officers face on a regular basis, is a really great way to build community engagement, which you know, and on both sides, it's our department knowing more about people in the community, and people in the community being able to have a better understanding of you and what you do. So I would strongly encourage you to do that. And when you do get one planned, let us know. Certainly, I'm sure everyone around the Horseshoe will help publicize that. But I also, you know, we should be reaching out to our electronic billboard companies and saying, hey, look, we've got this coming. Give us some time on those slots. I know I look at the one at Lawrence or Monroe and Chatham a lot.
Yeah, and I do know that we had some recruiting literature on that one.
Yes, and we've done that too, but.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it really is, and I'd like to see that continue, but I think also just kind of that hired recruiting, but recruit our citizens to have a better understanding and awareness, just as a bug, because I know we sometimes can forget about those things, but thank you, Alderman, you're right, that's a great point. We need to make sure that's publicized. Thank you, Chief.
Good idea.
Now I'm done.
All right, good comments. Anybody else have any questions of the chief and his staff? I just want to take this opportunity, Chief, to thank you and your department, the men and women on the streets, men and women behind the scenes for all you do. It's not always a fun situation you get into, but thanks for keeping Springfield strong. Thank you.
Chair, can I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to compliment the chief, his command staff, and all of our sworn men and women of the Springfield Police Department. 2024 was a very difficult year for this department. You were handed a lot of challenges that were not your own, but you handled it with grace and dignity, and you led this city in a wonderful way. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Mayor. Certainly appreciate that.
Now, next up is the fire department, so just give the clerk and few minutes to get ready and give the chief and his staff an opportunity to come up.
Put me down for three buzzards.
It's the best job ever for you.
I like that. I like that short 4 hours. That's a good opportunity.
Thank you. Load back up.
I bet you did.
Chief, not a great job, buddy.
Better than that'll be buying steaks in no time.
Not what you think. It's not TV. Yeah, it's hard.
That has to be frustrating.
Whose budget's that in?
Put that in the budget too.
Let's have that conversation.
Okay, Chief, are you ready?
I am. Thank you very much.
Chief, the floor is yours.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for having us. It's working. All right. So this is the organizational chart for the Springfield Fire Department. It's very much similar to what it has been in the past years, but I just want to take this time to introduce my staff. Beside me is my fiscal officer, Olivia Kerrigan, and my personnel officer, Denise Hildebrand. And then next to me is Assistant Chief Nick Zumo. Behind me, wave if you will, Division Chief Eric Helms, Division Chief Todd Taylor, Division Chief Jerry Pettit, and then Deputy Chiefs Bryce McCormick and Matt Wood. So I didn't forget any of you. Thank you. All right. So on this slide, I'm going to jump to the next one because I can cover both in one slide. But our personal services and pension obligation makes up about 85% of our budget. The 2% of our budget is fixed asset maintenance, and that's kind of an increase as opposed to previous years. And that's to maintain our 20 facilities spread throughout the city. So the firehouses and then other buildings we maintain. This year, we're focusing on high priorities listed in the Engineered Fire Station Assessment Study. That study we just did receive, and so that'll be coming out to you shortly. But they listed what we need to focus on as high priorities, medium priorities, and low priorities. So we did work off a draft to budget a dollar amount for that line. In addition, in that line, we also do things like driveway repairs, roof leaks, and general firehouse maintenance. And then all other lines makes up the remaining percentage. All right, so this next slide is our workforce. I want to draw your attention to the blue. The blue is what counts. And so, yes, we have hired 2 classes. The orange is the people that are in class at that given time. Our goal is to have our staff at or above 235. And as you can see by that, it never reaches 235 over the last time, even though we have hired. In 2024, we did hire the 2 classes, but had 19 people retire or leave for other reasons. So over the last few years, we've focused on minority recruitment, and our numbers are trending in the right direction. And as you can see in the bottom corner, there's a chart on what our numbers are now. On a yearly basis, we have approximately 10 to 15 people retire, and that warrants a yearly rookie class. When the department's short-staffed, we have to use overtime to ensure all of the rigs are staffed appropriately to meet minimum manning standards. Our overtime is finally trending in the right direction. It is $600,000 less than what we had budgeted, and that is thanks to your support here at council, because you guys have chosen to adequately staff us or move us in the right direction. I will say the amount of overtime was having a direct effect on job-related injuries and illnesses, just due to physical and mental wear on those working the extra. So again, thank you for making that a priority. And so this next, there we go. Oh, too far. Well, dang. All right. So FY26 is fairly status quo. The total FY26 all funds is an increase of just less than 1%. Personal services shows a small increase. However, and this is important, we are in the midst of collective bargaining. The local contract expires at March 1st, and we are in the midst of negotiating that. So personal services line is likely to see an increase based on current proposals being considered by the parties at this time. Other items under personal services is overtime, and that does decrease by $600,000. And the most notable thing is a large increase in the pension obligation. And even without things right now, the personal services is a less than 1% increase. But again, please remember that any contractual increases are not figured into this year's budget until the contract is finalized. The next line is the contractual services line. It's down 8%. Commodities line, which is gear for classes as well as annual replacement, is actually going to be down 10%. Our equipment line is going to be down almost 7%. That does have a fire engine as an annual replacement, as well as other equipment such as EMS equipment and vehicles that have reached the end of the life. Our EDP line is up, shown on the sheet as 11% increase. However, there is a technical amendment that should be coming, which will result in us being down almost 3.5% in that line. Telecommunications is also down almost 35%. The reason being is that's our radios, emergency dispatch, all of that. And we completed our Starcom and several other things like our dispatch system. And so it basically returns to normal to be consistent with previous years. The operating for automobiles line, that is our fuel as well as our shared services line for fleet maintenance. And so that actually is up 35%. However, we don't have control over what that amount is. So. And then the permanent improvements, as I spoke before, this is increasing due to addressing deferred maintenance on our stations. Many of those stations were built in the 50s and 60s, and issues arise out of having 70-year-old buildings. Travel and training is also decreasing. So this is just some of the things that set us apart from other fire departments that we're often compared to. It's similar in recent history. It's not really much has changed, but we do cover 124 square miles. We do protect several colleges and campuses, 2 level 1 trauma centers. We protect the Mid-Illinois Medical District, the state capitol, and numerous other state buildings. All right, so going to just do the divisions by the numbers. This past year, we saw an increase of 1,000 calls. Over the past 5 years, we have increased almost 40% in our call volume. So we are at 27,500 calls for this past year. I will say Station 13 has run quite a few calls, and it has made a big difference in providing timely emergency services to a previously underserved area of the community out in the southwest area. Our Fire Safety and Training Division. So, the Fire Safety Division, they do public education and a lot of other things. They've investigated over 156 fires. 80 of those were determined to be arson. 8 people were arrested. 10 were turned over to other interventions. A lot of that is just due to juvenile fire setters. I'm happy to report we've already had 1 arrest this year, so that is good. And they also do inspections. Over 700 plans reviewed, 1,900 life safety plans and inspections. And then our training is as it says, but they train everybody, our operations, our EMS, our special teams, and most importantly, they're in charge of the Recruit Academy. And this year, with 2 academies, they've had their hands full. All right, I'm going to turn this over to Assistant Chief Zumo to talk about apparatus. And, like I said, we've got 1 engine budgeted, and he's going to tell you about where we're at with our others.
Thank you. So we've invested a lot of money in our fleet in the last few years. It definitely put us in a more reliable position moving forward because just a couple years ago, we were literally just hours away from running out of rigs. Thanks to the hard work of the people at Fleet Maintenance, they were able to keep us running, but the times were tough with what we were dealing with. Many of our apparatus were beyond the 15 and 20-year lifespan that we use. But we're now healthier and more reliable frontline fleet, but we got to be careful not to let everything settle back into disrepair. And that's what I just kind of want to outline for you as we move forward. The industry standard for frontline rigs is 15 years. They don't want you to have anything older than that. For reserve fleet, it's 20. We still have many frontline apparatus that are beyond the industry standard for age and replacement. Even with that large purchase that we made in 2021, of our 24 units, 9 are beyond their useful age. Even with the truck that we have ordered, the engine that we ordered last year, and the engine that we will order this year, by the time they arrive, that number will actually jump to 11, even adding those 3 apparatus beyond their useful age. So it's something to keep in mind. Our reserve fleet, although they're not frontline, they're constantly in service. They're usually taking the place of any apparatus that are out of service for preventative maintenance or unscheduled maintenance that occurs. So we're still taxing rigs, even if they're not our frontline rigs. Many of our reserves are more or less always in service. Unfortunately, the industry still has a 4-year wait for any new builds that we order. So anything that we order this year, we will not get till 2029. And that causes it makes it very hard for us to kind of get ahead of the problem without purchasing numerous apparatus. Last year, we started by asking for 3 engines due to that long wait time, and we ended up with 1, which we understand that there's budgetary constraints, and we all get that, but just we have to keep in mind why we're doing that. If we just use real simple math, if we just say an engine is $1 million and a truck is $2 million, even if we increase to just like 1.5 every year, it'll take us till 2062 or 37 years to catch up to our useful numbers that we need. If we increase to 2 million annually, if we just double what we're doing right now, we can do it in 17 years in 2042. Next year, we're going to have to ask you for a new aerial ladder, one of our truck companies. The cost of that's approximately $2 million. By the time we will receive that apparatus, we will have 2 trucks that are over 30 years old. So what I would like to recommend and what I hope we can adopt going into next year is that second option where we're spending about $2 million annually just using today's prices, doubling kind of what we're doing. If we buy a truck next year for $2 million, leaving that money in, moving forward, buying 2 engines a year and then a truck as it kind of levels out. It'll still take us many years to get caught up, but we have to stay on a plan because you never know, there could be a catastrophic event take place or any of these, getting a wreck or anything breaks down. It obviously changes that and adds to the burden, but this will spread out that financial burden to the city.
All right, thank you. All right, next slide. These are our accomplishments this past year. So everybody knows we opened 3 new fire stations. We completed the mold remediation project at Station 12. We did order 1 new fire engine. Again, it won't come in until 2028, and that will replace an end-of-life rig. We expanded the traffic preemption system. We hired 2 recruit classes, and we installed a new fire station paging system. And the picture on the screen is our new canine acceleration detection, and his name is Ozzy.
Why did he not come with you tonight?
He's named
So he's a
after
Cardinal fan.
Ozzy Smith, yes.
Hey.
All right, so as I said, we expanded the traffic preemption system, and that comes up all the time. So I had mentioned a couple meetings ago I would bring a map. So here's the map. The things that look like, well, it's kind of hard to see, but the things that are actual traffic lights, the red, green, yellow, that are in succession, most of them are over on the southwest side. Those are completed. You've also got some over in the central east side as well. Those are completed. If they are green dots, they are in progress right now. Will be installed here hopefully before spring. And then anything in the yellow is what we hope to install in the future. If we have nothing really planned right now for this budget cycle, but that we may bring for future years to install those. That may change, but again, some of those corridors are where we like to see that system installed. And that traffic preemption, it not only gets us to fires quicker, but it's safer. It's safer because it turns the light green for us in the direction we're traveling, which also ensures that people are moving out of our way, and red for everyone else in other directions. So the next slide is our goals. So our goals for 26, to hire a recruit class midsummer. We are hoping to be able to hire on a regular basis moving forward with regular dates and times. And that way we can be able to tell candidates during the recruitment a firm date and what they can expect, when they can expect a class to begin, when the next test will be, things such as that. We're currently working on human resources to get information and a video out for candidates on the physical requirements and expectations of the jobs. Our goal is also to find more grant opportunities. The last month you guys accepted a grant for foam replacement. We had a grant for SCBA's this past year. So we're hoping to find more to help assist and provide funding. One of our main goals, and it's always a goal, but we're going to focus more on it in the coming year, is to improve firefighter health, both physical and mental. This past year, we offered cancer screenings to all fire department employees, and we had over 75% participation. We continue an annual occupational health and respirator screening and physical, and we continue to educate our members on mental and physical health in conjunction with our department safety officer and joint labor health and wellness committee. And the last slide. I just want to say thank you to the mayor, thank you to the alderpersons, and thank you to the build team, and most importantly, thank you to the citizens of Springfield for allowing us to build 3 new fire stations. So without all of your support, that could not be possible. Opening 3 new fire stations highlighted the year, and it ensures the health and safety of the community for years to come. Any questions?
I should have never done that. I never heard the end of it from number 2.
He was looking very dapper that day.
Thank you, Chief. We do have several signed up. Chief, before we get to my colleagues, I did have a comment and a couple questions. I heard Chief Zumo's comments loud and clear about the apparatus issue, and I'm sure this won't be the last conversation. I'm sure that will be forthcoming, so thanks for bringing that to our attention in a direct manner. I had a question just about that traffic preemption system. Visibly, is that what, like when I drive around, I notice them on Bruns/Chatham Road, is that like that bell-shaped device that's on top of the pole, or am I imagining?
So actually, Chief Wood is
okay.
Yes,
All right.
is our resident expert on that. Do you want to speak on that?
I mean, you can't if you want. Okay, yeah. The quick, short answer is yes. So if you're driving around, look at the map, and it looks like a bell. It's about this big on top of the light poles or traffic light poles. So anyway, a way to visibly see it. And then just one quick question about, and I have to ask, it is now from Ward 8 into Ward 9, old station number 8. What are we going to do with it? What's the plan? Please don't say, oh, we plan on getting rid of it, and that's it. What have we done to pursue that option?
Do you want to take that, or do you want me? Or do you want-
I can start, and then you can fill in if you'd like, or, so.
I'm being asked, that's why.
Yeah, so, Mike Lesko actually put out RFP for it. I don't know if he's still here or not, but anyway, so if people were interested in buying it, so we're selling old Station 8. If people were interested in buying it, they could put in an RFP on that, and then once that date comes to fruition, we'll open the bids and sell it off to whoever is the most responsible bidder.
Mayor?
So I think the RFP may have closed on it today.
Today, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yes, so the RFP closed today. There were bids. I'm meeting with Mr. Lesko, purchasing agent Lesko, tomorrow because I haven't had an opportunity to see, so I can't tell you that because I was tied up in meetings all day, and it ended today, so we needed to give them time to look at that. So my intent is to sell it. My intent is not for us to continue retaining real estate that we do nothing with and let it deteriorate. I think that's bad business, so.
Okay, I appreciate that. Man, how timely. Does anybody know, and I'll just ask, you probably don't, but the old Starbucks, is it up for sale? I don't remember if I saw a sign there or not.
I can't speak to that.
I know it's not the fire department, thank you, but it is right next door, and maybe there's an opportunity, I don't know. Anyway, that's all the questions I have on that note. Alderman Rockford.
Yes, Chief, I got to ask, I'm looking at your budget. You've got a purchase of an engine for 1.1 million, and you also have a purchase of an ambulance. Last year, we kept money in there for an ambulance.
It's rolled over from last year.
So that's rolled over.
It's not new, it's just rolled over.
Where has that gone, and what can you tell me, what's happening with the ambulance service?
Right now, right now, we're running status quo, and, there's not any movement right now, but we are keeping the options open. So.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Alderwoman Purchase.
Thank you. Could we go back to the slide with the lights and?
I think.
Yes, right here.
Okay.
So can you explain to me, Chief Canning, how does this process work? Because it looks like we have a lot of lights in one section. That's like by Cokie Mill, West Cokie Mill, Leland Grove, Jerome. But then when you get a little bit over into the central area, it's maybe about 4 lights. So how did that process work? How do we select what's being done? And then I heard you say we hope for the future of the ones that's in the yellow, which is basically Ward 5, Vinegar Hill and stuff. So downtown, central, and we've been having a lot of fires just like centrally located. So can you just explain a little bit of that process?
So it was originally in 5 phases, and so a lot of that southwest was done in phase 1.
Okay.
And so then we moved into phase 2, and we looked at areas that were part of our high accident area, and we looked at where new Station 8 is, and we didn't want the rig to cause problems or accidents when it comes out to Route 4. So that central west was part of phase 2, as well as areas over there in the southeast corner. Mm-hmm. And so those are some of the areas we felt we had more problems with, that have accidents, and that when we approach those intersections, we cause problems. So that got taken care of at the end of phase 2. And then phase 3 is also areas, that's what we were focusing on, is areas where we either have high accident rates or it's major slowdowns. And
what phase are you in now? What phase are you in now?
3.
3? Okay.
Yeah. So the phases were going to be, just different quadrants. Mm-hmm. And we realized that it doesn't make any sense to put some of those high priority things on hold until they might get there in phase 5. So we took, instead of just doing it in quadrants, we said, okay, let's get the priority intersections and go for those. And so, you see the green dots, mm-hmm. Those are areas where our rigs respond frequently. And so that's where it makes a difference. And then you can see Cook Street there. Is it Cook or South Grand that has Cook? Okay. And so that's a heavily trafficked area, mm-hmm. that has high-speed traffic in both directions. And so if we can control those, that's what we thought would be the best thing for our next area.
Okay. I just was looking at the colors and how you explained it, and it looked like it's just one big bulk area, but thank you for explaining that process.
Right, and that was because it was the initial, that's where we started, and now we've changed our priority, if you will.
Okay, and how long does that take? Like you just went through each phase, but about how long is a phase?
So it takes about 18 months from start to finish, from when we come to you to request the money to get the company, the equipment, and then the installer to install the stuff.
Yeah, I know over on Carpenter and 6, just the medical district between the hospitals, that's like a lot of car accidents, and it's places where you all need to get to the hospitals too. So looking at that area, I wanted to go back to Alderman Donelan's concern. I wrote it down. You said $2 million annually for 2 trucks, and then we have 2 trucks that's around 30 years old already, or going on 30 years.
Right, they're in our spare fleet right now. The 2 that are really old, and so yes, so our oldest frontline rigs are what do we have, 16-year-old? Is that the oldest right now? 17 years old right now is our oldest frontline rig.
I don't like always going into the past, but something had to happen that we're so far behind, or is it just the time frame? Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it just a time frame? You said it take about 4 years.
So yeah, so
Just a
one of the
truck to come
biggest problems we're facing right now is that 48-month delay. If we did order several, and that came in and that fixed our problem initially, but that also came in at the same time as a lot of the COVID money went out. Right. And a lot of departments use that money to buy apparatus, which set the manufacturers back. And so everybody wants their fire engine now. And so now when we order, instead of being able to get it this year, if we could order it each year and get it right now,
you would be okay.
That would be better, yes. But we don't have any control over how long it is. And if they change standards or anything like that, that delays the process even more. So right now we're at 48 months. I will say this, over the last year, that window has kind of ebbed and flowed from 48 to 52, back to 48. So 48 is probably where we're at right now.
Well, thank you for explaining and breaking that down, because it makes it really hard when we're in a crunch or in a pickle to try to make a cut. And there's been extremely a lot of fires. I mean, I sat and watched the one on 4th Street last week. Then there was one on South Grand this morning. And a lot of them is with unhoused population in them. So we can't afford to not have fire trucks or say, oh, this one is down, so we can't get one out.
Right.
It's really hard and concerning and alarming. And then my last thing I just wanted to compliment you all on is the response to the fires. Especially on our historic houses, those seem to catch fire quick and burn super fast. And I've been in front of one where it was very nervous-wracking, and one of my own too, that you all have to really be prepared in that response time of 4 minutes or 4.5 minutes. That is really critical, because I watched it where it could have went into the alley and the lines could have went down into the school. Elementary school. So just how quick things can happen. I just want to thank the men and women of the fire department for the hard work that you guys do every day and put your lives on the line for us.
Thank you very much. And we do. We have a stellar team working for the Springfield Fire Department. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman Williams.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And thank you, Chief, and your team for coming. And I want to thank my colleagues, because I had 7 questions and I'm down to 3. So you guys are really on it. And I'm not here to complain tonight, Chief, because I believe you're one of the departments. We give you guys whatever you need, whatever you want. But in saying that, my 2nd grade field trip, oh God, I shouldn't be saying, field trip in elementary school was at these, back then they called them the 3 triplets. And I'm talking about 19th and Converse,
yes.
MLK, yes. And King Drive, and I think somewhere on North Grand.
Yes, Osborne and North Grand.
So, I know we just did, don't build nothing else on going west of Veterans, because they got 3 brand-new fire, and in my, no, Cokie Mills up there with the 2 new ones, too. That's 3, Alderman. So I'm thinking, when I think about the 2 hospitals, the 3 high schools, you know, where the population of Springfield is, I'm like, what the heck are what we doing? And this is what I hear in my neighborhood associations when they see those 3 beautiful things. Of course, he gets to brag because he got lucky. And then, of course, I'm with these, what I just described to you. And we can't do that now. Definitely not now, but we want you not to forget. Because I heard you say useful age when we talked about equipment. I don't know if there's such thing as useful age for fire stations or buildings, and I don't even know if our equipment nowadays could fit in those facilities that I went and saw on that field trip. They probably still can. I don't know. I've seen some trucks, and I'm like, well, they can't go to that firehouse, so I just don't know the answer to that. But I'll say, please, you know, keep those in mind and keep those things in mind, because they're not doing nothing but aging and getting older. They got to be the oldest ones. Mine on Stevenson Drive, do you still consider that your training house or your training area for fire?
So it has a training facility behind it.
Okay.
And it has multiple towers. One of the towers we don't train in any longer.
It's totally not used.
Okay. It can be used for certain things, but we don't burn in it anymore. So, and certain aspects of it aren't useful anymore. Just again because of the age. And like you said, those 3 houses, I don't want to put any years out there, but they were built in 1956. So.
Yeah.
You
just told.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yes, and so, you know, and those houses we're mindful because, like you said, they're smaller, and the garage doors are a factor. And you know, that house on Stevenson, we had to raise the garage door in order to allow it to fit apparatus in it. So, but that as far as training goes, we do use the cans there, and they do require pretty regular maintenance because they're all metal, and so we have rust issues there. Our recruit academy trains there, as well as over. Chief Scarlett mentioned that they go to Decatur for the academy. Our crew goes over to Decatur for their burns right now, and they have a nice facility over there.
But I thought I recalled some discussion when I first got on the council that there in some future plans to do some upgrades or something on Stevenson.
We would love to, but again, that's requires money.
It's just like the other. Okay.
Yes, everything. Yes, it's.
And then my final question deals with when there's a fire, does it have to be so big or so large before you would use a cadaver dog or a cadaver dog?
So
this came up with this latest body that was just, Fountain House, but of course, earlier there was a Goodwill issue where there was another one. And so at one of my neighborhood association meetings, it was asked, well, don't they do that at all the fires? And I said, I don't think so. Might be a certain size or has to be so big first. I'm asking the question.
So when we go to a fire, every fire is different, and it depends on the extent of damage. But our crews go in and they do a search. And, even if the house is abandoned or vacant, we do a search. We go through and we search for people. That's one of the first things we do. We do a primary search, and then we do a secondary search. In instances like the Goodwill fire, we were at that fire for many hours. The place was burned out. We found out, that was right around Christmas time, and we found out that there were multiple people staying in there and developed a list. And then we went out in the community and tried to find those people. And we brought in the cadaver dogs after we had found most of the people, but we were still missing 2. We brought in those cadaver dogs to run through the scene. They didn't find anything. And the next day, we found out that those people, because it was Christmas, had gone up to Chicago to visit relatives. So everyone who we knew that could have been in that building was accounted for. So on the most recent fire, our crews found that person during a search. So
And so the dog that you referred to in your presentation, it's not one of those, it sniffs the chemicals and stuff. It doesn't.
It does. It
do what
helps
I'm-
us. It helps us to find if there's accelerants, so gasoline or things that people might have used as an accelerant, and so that helps us figure out where that accelerant was used, and then it's also used in prosecution of people who commit arson.
So our need for a dog that can sniff out a body, or is that something that we really don't require all the time, so we don't have one, or we have no interest, or?
The instance of use for that is so rare that around the state, like that team that we called in then is the team for Missouri and Illinois.
Okay, so that was up by St. Louis, wasn't it, or?
So the team like that we called in, they came in and there was someone from Bloomington and somebody from St. Charles, Missouri on that team, and they come together, and so they're a regional team.
So it's that rare, okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of rare.
Well, thank you, sir, and thank
Yes.
you guys for coming.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Gregory.
Thank you. Congratulations to fire department, the community, and just the city in general on the completion of all the firehouses. I know it was tough work. We had some things we was waiting on, and some things that we had to do. And I appreciate the mayor for finishing it out, and what we needed to do. That's probably what, $30 million, $40 million, that this council has pushed into our fire department, between the houses and equipment, and, so I agree with my colleague. We always are going to try to do what we need to do for all of our departments. I agree with my older sister on the preemptive system. We'd love to see more of that work in the inner city. I'm sure Rock will say the north side, based on fires and where the amount we have fires at. I think that's important. I definitely salute you all because you have you're at least up plus 6 or 7 minority workers, and that's a fabulous job. And when you look at the recruitment, you still have some in there. So it is working. The fruits of your hard work in that sector is working, and you got a young lady sitting next to you. So it's working. So we want to continue that and keep the pedal to the metal on that, and make sure they come on up to the next rung. So someday we'll see a person of color sitting up there, chief or assistant chief or something like that. I think that'll be a proud day for Springfield. So keep up that good work. I don't want to get into any personnel things or like that. You guys said that you was in contract negotiations, so I'm not going to get into that. I will say I want to have some more discussions with you on this ambulance EMS situation that we are in. Anytime we have 60% EMS calls, more than fires, we definitely got to put our minds together as a council and think about how we handle this. I will say I would rather right now see us address the engine portion rather than hold up money for this ambulance. I don't think it's something that I would be prepared to I don't want to say pull the trigger, but go with this year, so to speak. But I am interested in how that works and how we can really provide a service to make what you guys do comfortable with 60% of EMS calls, but at the same time make sure that we're not going to blow our budget. We got some tough decisions to make, but I am interested in that, and that's just my thought on that particular item. Other than that, I appreciate you guys, the work, and I look forward to talking to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman Conley.
Thank you. And again, you guys echo, thanks everyone for being here. Thanks for your time and your thought in this budget. I just real quickly, can you talk a little bit about the assessment that was done on our assets, on our buildings, and kind of, I don't know if you're prepared to give a summary of what that report says, or
Yeah, so
a high-level summary?
Yes, so.
Because I will just say, Alderman Williams, there he is. I've been to the North Grand facility, and he's absolutely right. I mean, when we talk about tight quarters in older buildings, that's very much a concern. So, although of course, we are not going to ignore the need for the vehicles, which I.
Sure, yeah. So basically, the firm came in and they did an assessment. They had two teams, an architectural team and an MEP team, which mechanical, electrical, and plumbing team. And what they found mainly as troubling was a lot of our places had roof issues and electrical upgrade issues and some plumbing issues. Their report was 240 some pages with a lot of pictures of things. Some of which is, I guess, concerning to me is on some of the houses, they recommended additional testing. So I will, get that report out to each of you, and you can review it. But it lists things that are high priority, medium priority, low priority. We went through. We know some of the issues that are out there. One of our stations has a roof leak. That's not identified in their report, and it also has some plumbing problems that is also they did not identify in their report. So it's only as good as what they addressed. We're living in it day in, day out, and so we know the issues. So they had a point in time inspection. So they addressed the glaring issues, I guess. So.
Well, and I think, and this is something where, and obviously we have budget constrictions. I'm going to try to stay optimistic. We've got the sports center opening, and hopefully our fiscal future looks a little rosier. But that said, some of the connections that you made today, so an increase in education and awareness around health issues, and especially cancer screenings, and going through those tours at the new stations, one of the things that was emphasized was that separation of spaces and having that increase, the very specific designated space to get rid of all the contaminants that our firefighters deal with when they're addressing a fire. Right. And we know yours is a profession where cancer has a higher rate of incidence. Those are alarming things. So I think we as a council need to make sure that we keep our eye on this too. We're not just dealing with, larger spaces for larger vehicles, but we're also, Alderman Williams, I agree with you 100%. We need to be, looking to be creative and looking for ways, and I especially appreciate looking at grants, to maybe offset some of the vehicle needs that we have. But we need to very much make that a priority that is part of our future planning, because we're also talking about the biggest investment that this city makes, and we see it in every budget, are our people. And our people are the ones who are delivering those services. And we're not going to AI a firefight. Those are our people who go out there and address those fires. And those are the people that I get compliments on, and I don't know who doesn't wave at a fire truck when they go by. They're crazy, but that's what people are focusing on, and those are our assets. So I think I appreciate you said it in a way that was polite, but we do need to make sure that we're continually reducing that risk, that we're not just improving the safety of our residents, and we're improving the safety of the people who provide those services, because we're very proud of the very top class service that the city has, and that we're able to provide to colleges, our medical district, the state buildings. And we don't get tax money from those state buildings either. So we're in an interesting position, but thank you for that. I'm looking forward to getting that report. I'd like to look at it and just want to reiterate, Alderman Williams isn't wrong. We need to make sure that our facilities are being examined, and that we can, find what we can to replace and improve those. So thank you for that, and thank you for doing the other, the other touches. 75% participation in cancer screening.
Yes, yes.
That's critically important.
And I was blown away by how many people actually did participate.
So I'd like to make sure that's something that you include as an annual outreach, and increase that level of engagement, because I will say, having a firefighter have to come into city council chambers because they were having all those issues getting approved for treatment for cancer,
Yes.
I will say, was probably a low moment for me on this council. That was discouraging. So I'd like to see more prevention and responsiveness in that area too. So thank you for doing that and making that available.
Thank you.
And I look forward to that report. I don't know if I'll read every word. That's a lot of.
It's a lot of pictures. It's a lot of pictures.
We all love our pictures. And also, I do want to just lodge one complaint.
Okay.
Why have we not met Ozzy in person yet? You have a dog that hasn't come to council yet. I'm very disappointed.
You know, I'm sure we could probably set up a time that he could come up and visit, so.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Anything else?
No, I'm done.
Mayor Busher.
One and done. Yep. Thank you.
So Alderman Williams, I completely agree with you.
All right, we got it, okay.
The study that the chief is going to send you should have been done before we chose locations to build. It was recommended in the original study to do this, and this step was skipped completely, and locations were chosen and money was spent. So when I became the mayor, I said to the chief, it's extremely important to me that we assess these firehouses, because to your point, a lot of them are very old. I have toured them with the chief, and we should have done this ahead of time. So you're going to get the report, and then we have to make some decisions here. But I agree with you.
Thank you.
Yes. And Chief, thank you to the men and women of the Springfield Fire Department, your command staff. You had the biggest fire in downtown Springfield in over 50 years last year. And I have had, still to this day, mayors ask me from other communities, how did they contain that and it not spread throughout the whole block? And that answer I give is because of the professionalism and the great men and women that work at the Springfield Fire Department. So you didn't give yourself enough credit for that, so I'm going to do it here.
Well,
and
thank
you're
you.
a great leader, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mayor. And Chief, I did want to add that, Alderman Williams is correct about the houses, but, when I drive around and I look at the older houses and then you drive by the new ones, and it has to be a morale issue at times. You don't have to respond to this, because here I'm fortunate enough to be assigned to one of the newer houses that have everything that's been described this evening and more. We got to keep that in mind too, because it's so important. So, again, thank you very much for this presentation tonight. I see no other questions. Thanks for the men and women that work at the fire department and ensuring that Springfield has a Class 1 designation. It's a big deal for this city, and you can go ahead and.
Yes, all right, and thank you all for your support. Again, it wouldn't be possible without all of your support, so thank you.
Thank you again. Nice job this evening. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute recess before the Office of Public Utilities.
Thank you, Chair. So they got 10 minutes.
Right.
Just a quick reminder, we are streaming and broadcasting on all platforms.
But that's fascinating.
Yeah.
And scary.
Try it. Hello? Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah, you can hear. This mic's a way better mic.
Oh, my goodness.
I don't want to bring Tony back on vacation, but please don't talk with your hands. I was just being silly. Tony's very particular about the microphones. Please be careful, everybody.
Okay. You knew it. You're so good. They don't have musicians.
There you go. I bet. I bet. That's gotta be different. I had some. Yeah. You just let it run around, yeah. I just go.
I saw that. I couldn't believe it. Good number. Chuck, you ready? Mr. Brown, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, next up is the Office of Public Utilities, better known as City Water, Light, and Power. Mr. Brown, the floor is yours.
First I just want to thank all the staff, from the bottom to the top. It just takes a great effort to put this together. With us tonight, though, I do have the Finance Director, Jamie Shobe, Ben Kerfoot, the Supervisor of Fiscal Services. I'm going to go over some highlights for the budget, and then I'm going to turn it over to Todd LaFountain, Water Division Manager, and Scott Rogers, Electric Division Manager, to go over their respective budgets. I also have Regulatory Affairs Director Deborah Williams here, as well as Amber Sabin, Director of Customer and Media Relations. And here is just an overview of the 5 divisions of City Water, Light, and Power. Won't belabor that. Head count, though, we're going up 15 positions. And so, as part of the water rate increase that we had, we're increasing lead service line work, we're increasing main work. So, and as a part of that, we had basically a full crew of 4 being added, as well as an engineer and an engineer tech. And I would say actually the engineer tech we've had for decades retired. We took him out of the budget last year, so it looks like it's an increase, but we're just reinstating it because we basically cut the position because of the financial condition that we were in. The remainders are really on the electric side, where we're adding an apprenticeship class for linemen, some engineers, engineer tech. So on the electric side, it's more about succession planning, planning for retirements and those things that are going to be coming in the next few years. So you'll see the head counts, kind of go up and down for budgeted positions with that. Also, our minority percentages are at 14%, and females at 19%, and that's remained steady for last year and this year, or say the previous year and this year. And then I think if you go back, a couple years before that, it was about 12% minorities that we had, and then going back probably 10 years, it was probably half of that. Pilot, which is the payment in lieu of taxes, and then our city services that we provide to the city and then the payments that we make for shared services for cities, the corporate side of the budget for those services. In total, it's about $20.1 million in value that we provide to the city, essentially. I would say, though, one thing of note is that we did reinstate the water pilot because, the water fund, improving, so we were able to do that this year. I won't belabor this too much, just hit some highlights for some of the accomplishments. Just some things of note. The electric bond refinancing resulted in $23 million in savings. We did hit the sweet spot for the bond market. Basically, when we closed our deal, the bond market fell apart within that week, and basically the savings that we would have lost would have been $10 million, so we wouldn't have been able to proceed with that. So we did well. Grant work, we've done a lot of that here in the last couple of years. It's starting to pay off with some of the grants that we've received, and we're going to talk about some more additional grants coming up too. One thing of note is basically our net metering policies that we have are driving rooftop solar installations in Springfield. We're up to 11.2 megawatts, and it's accelerating at a very rapid pace, which is a reason that we can't keep up with that work, and we did add a position of like an engineer tech to help with this in that office. Oh, there we go. It's a little slow. Continuing to improve the water fund, continuing with our lead service line replacements, increased water main work, as well as improving the water quality that we have with the work in our watershed. And that's, continuing to grow. So just one thing of note, which, since we did have the water rate increase, what's happening? What's the impact? And then, building cash in the first year, one of the big pieces is reducing the payable to electric from water. So we're dropping from 5.5 million down to 1 million already, and we will drive that to zero. Made a payment for the corporate side on the drowning lawsuit that we had this fiscal, and then we have it budgeted for this next fiscal. And then just, again, complying with those regulations, infrastructure improvements, covering our costs for the chemical increases and the waste disposal, like from the lime lagoons that we incur, and then preparing ourselves for a future bond issuance for, such thing as dredging the lake, trying to comply with the new federal guidelines, which Todd will talk a little bit more about in a bit, as well as Lindsay Bridge improvements. Oops, I did it twice. Okay, it's gonna stay. Here's just a glimpse of where our water rates are at with the second rate increase coming. We're basically the third lowest in the state. Quincy's the lowest. They're in the middle of a 2-year rate hike, so their rates will go up again here next year. As well as Chicago is the next one, and they have the most lead lines basically in the country. Their rates are going to go up, but the whole kind of point of this discussion is that all the utilities, water utilities, are raising their rates for infrastructure improvements, and but we remain, basically providing a great value to our customers for the infrastructure projects that we're pursuing. And here is the utility rates for the electric side, comparing it to investor-owned utilities. Basically, it's just a residential average use customer. You can see that our bills are pretty low, and I think that's really attributable to basically Unit 4 providing stability against the energy market fluctuations, as well as the capacity market in addition. So we're doing well, and then the investor owns are constantly going to the Commerce Commission, Illinois Commerce Commission, for rate increases. So their bills are going to continue to climb. And then here's just another version comparing it to state average for what we're saving our customers on average per month over these years. And then now I'm going to turn it over to Todd LaFountain to go over some of the water fund budget and initiatives.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to present the proposed FY26 Water Fund budget. All right, starting with Water Fund revenues. It comes as a surprise to no one that the majority of our revenues comes from the sale of water. In FY26, we are projecting that 70% of our total revenues will come from water sales. Two other historically large categories of revenue for us are bond and grant proceeds. We are expecting 20% of our revenues in 2026 to come from those two categories. The only other thing of real significance on this slide is that we are leaning on fund balance for 7% of our revenues in 2026. Here you see a quantitative look at our projected revenues for FY25 and 26. The one thing of significance to note here, as Doug mentioned, our retail and wholesale revenues are up significantly next year, and this is due to the implementation of Phase 2 of the rate increase package that was passed last year. We are projecting water sales, so the volume of sales, to remain flat. This will be the fourth year in a row that we have projected flat water sales. Switching to the right side of the ledger, Water Division expenses. So you see categorical expense items there. Our largest expected expense is capital improvements projects. That is followed by our employee costs. And then commodities and contracts continues to grow to be an ever large portion of our budget. Here you see a quantitative look at our expenses from fiscal year 25 to 26. There's several items of note here. Our employee costs are growing a little over $1 million next year. So as Doug mentioned, that is primarily due to the fact that we are proposing to add 6 staff members to our water distribution office. Capital projects are also increasing next fiscal year, and that is due to additional investments we're making in our water distribution system. Commodities and contracts continue to grow to be a larger and larger portion of our budget, increasing at a rate much greater than inflation. Equipment is also up. This has 2 components associated with it. So the new equipment for the proposed crew, and then a more aggressive equipment replacement program. And then finally, transfers, as Doug mentioned, that's up significantly because we are resuming our contribution to the pilot program, as well as making a payment on the drowning case lawsuit to the corporate fund. So I'd like to spend a little bit more time on commodities. Commodities at the water purification plant are largely our chemicals that we feed to the water treatment process. So here you see a 25-year snapshot of our annual chemical costs out at the water plant. You look to the right there, you can see we're projecting another significant increase in 2026. If you look back a decade, we were paying about a little less than $1.5 million for chemicals. We are expecting to pay well in excess of $3 million in FY26. The commodity price explosion doesn't get any better at water distribution. Commodities at water distribution include pipe, hydrants, valves, fittings, things of that nature. So here you'll see our annual cost over the last 10 years. About 10 years ago, we were spending a little over $1.5 million for those items. We plan to spend well in excess of $3.5 million this year for the very same materials. Okay, so here you see a breakdown of our expenses by functional work location. The big item here is you see that distribution costs or expenses are expected to be a little less than half our budget next year. This is due to 2 primary items. Again, as Doug mentioned, increasing our water main and lead service replacement work, and also moving forward on the relocation of our water distribution field services office. Here's a brief summary of our major financial allocations for 2026. Again, we plan on spending a significant amount of money on water main replacement and lead service replacement. We're adding that crew to the tune of about $1 million at water distribution. We plan on embarking on relocating our facility from water distribution facility from 401 North 11th Street. We also want to address our financial metrics, and I reiterate some of what Doug said before on this as well. We've got the payment to the corporate fund for the drowning lawsuit. We've got the pilot program, and we want to square up with the electric fund, pay the balance of what we owe them. So we also have the equipment program that I talked about. We want to continue our nationally recognized Lake Springfield watershed work, and we plan on reinitiating our contribution to the improvement of the lake area roads. So largely when we talk about water main replacements and work in our distribution system, largely what we're talking about is going out and finding mains with a high break history, replacing those, or going out and finding lead service lines and replacing those. Another component we don't talk about a lot, but is a significant part of our budget, is relocations that we have to do to accommodate other major public works projects. So this next fiscal year, the big one's going to be the railroad consolidation project up at 10th and North Grand. We are going to have to spend about $5 million to relocate our facilities to accommodate that project. Our water distribution field services center. So it's currently located at 401 North 11th Street. We presented a couple options last fiscal year. One was to stay at that location and build a new equipment shed, and one was to relocate. The overwhelming consensus was that we should relocate. So we are planning to relocate to 2021 Clear Lake Avenue. We are planning to cohabitate that site with Public Works. We do believe we're going to gain significant efficiencies both in construction and later in operation by sharing the site with Public Works. All right, so our lead service line program is pretty well set for the next 2 fiscal years, so FY 26 and 27. We are planning on replacing 550 lead service lines over the next 2 years at a cost of about $7 million. So that program has 2 components, planned replacements and emergency replacements. The planned replacements are scheduled to occur in wards 2 and 3, census tracts 16 and 23. Those replacements are being funded by CWLP on the public side of the service line and through an IEPA SRF loan with principal forgiveness on the homeowner side. The emergency replacements, those will occur citywide, so geographically dispersed. Those are being funded with CWLP O&M funds for the city-owned portion and ARPA grant monies for the customer-owned portion. So this gets back to what Doug alluded to earlier. We've adopted early a lead service line replacement program, kind of been one of the leading utilities in doing so back in 2019. The black line that you see there has been our historical number of replacements as well as what we projected to have to replace under state law, House Bill 3739. We were expecting to have to replace about 500 lead service lines when the mandatory replacements rolled in 2027. Since the last time we talked, the federal government has instituted or passed LCRI, new regulation, that mandates a 10-year replacement window. So the orange line on that graph reflects the current requirements under LCRI. So in 2027, we would have to double the production rate that we were expecting to have to meet. So a little more on LCRI. What would that mean to us? Again, it would compress the replacement window to 10 years, so we'd have to do 10% a year. Right now, that looks like about 1,000 lead service lines per year at a cost of about $15 million per year to the utility. This is a significant lift, not only for us, but the rest of the utilities nationwide. This legislation is being challenged by a number of groups, including the leading advocacy group for the water organization, the American Water Works Association. So we'll see where it lands, but we may have to increase our production rate significantly in the future if this legislation remains in place. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Electric Division Manager Scott Rogers.
Thanks, Todd. Uh-oh.
You're done. Okay.
I just turned it off.
Bye, Scott.
There it goes. I want to welcome everybody, or thank you, everybody, for letting me come up and present tonight. I'm going to go over the electric fund resources again, very similar to water, although we are 90% funded from our revenues. The other one, there is a 5% fund balance this year that we're relying on. Looking at the numbers, retail, it's down again this year, 0.5%, and that's pretty typical. We've been seeing our retail load kind of drop around 0.5% annually. At some point, the electrification is going to make up that difference, and it's going to take off. But until we see that, we're pretty consistent about 0.5% a year. Wholesale load down again, primarily that is a projection based on what the market prices are going to be, based on what futures of natural gas are going to be. Fund balance again, that is what's left over renewables from this year, renewable replacement fund from this year, and what other fund balance, and I forgot that there's a third one that goes into there. And that one's pretty flat. In the end, we're down, our total is down 1.9% for the year. There's a trend of our retail megawatt hours. This is not the revenue side, this is the load side. You can see with COVID, we had a pretty significant drop off. It started to recover, and in the last couple of years, it's been weather dependent. And so you can see that fall and then kind of a recovery this last year and what we're projecting for this year. A lot of that load is weather dependent, so that's a big portion of it too. Our expenses, commodities and contracts are our biggest expense, 52%, and out of that 52%, half of that is coal. And then the other big expense, personnel services. And you can see that on this chart. Our personnel services is the biggest expense. Capital improvements, we're down a little bit this year. Debt service, as Doug mentioned, that's a big decrease. That shows the 12 million for this year for debt service. Commodities and contracts, that's up slightly this year, and again, similar to the water department, a lot of our commodities are going up in price. Equipment transfer, the big one there was we had auto loan, and when we ordered those, when we did that auto loan back 3 or 4 fiscal years ago, some of that equipment just now has started coming in, or we just got the remainder of what we ordered, I should say, this past year. So that's the big drop in that one. And our expenses are down 2.2%. And by department, transmission distribution is 28%. Primarily, the biggest increase there has been over the last few years in the decrease in generation with the closure of the Dahlman plants, the lack of coal burn at those plants has decreased generations fund, and then the purchase power increases the transmission distribution fund. General fund 20% and debt service 15%, pretty typical expenses there. Now we're gonna get into some of the projects we've got this year. The AMIs, the advanced metering infrastructure, we have received the funds, we have received the RFPs. We're still going through those. There is over 15 RFPs, and you can only imagine the number of papers that go with each RFP. So that has been a daunting process that we've been going through. It's estimated 16 million over 4 years. We are going to fund all that, try to fund that through the refinanced funds from the bond issuance. Hopefully this year we can get everything done, get the vendor selected, and get started on building the network out that will be required for all the AMIs. And this is going to be just electric meters. The network will be able to utilize for water department, but currently this year we're only looking at the electric meters. Some of the other projects we've got, overhead infrastructure, maintenance, tree trimming, line clearance, that has been going very well. We started with a target of 5-year cycle, and we are fast approaching a 4-year cycle, which means we are getting back to the cycles where we started in 4 years instead of 5 years now. So that makes them go quicker, and that also tells us that we're making sure that we have clearance around those lines and reduce outages based on wind and tree damage. Continue with pole replacements. We still have a very significant number of poles that are over 50 years old in our system. LED street lighting. And finally, I think the county and the railroad has got their issues with Iron Bridge and Woodside Road intersection done. They're supposed to let that, so we are going to finish our transmission relocation work there this year. Again, rail consolidation, similar to the water department. It's primarily that 19th and Carpenter intersection. There's a big, it's between Enos and Ridge, 19th and in North Grand, in that area. We're relocating some of our distribution system in that area this year to prepare for that. Substation, these are substation relaying, the 138 kV, 69 kV breakers and relays. There's a 7-year program of replacing those breakers. And so we've been going through those and getting those replaced annually. Voltage regulators and load tap changers, very similar. Battery bank chargers, some of our battery bank chargers are getting out of date. So we're going to newer models that have more, I'll say, abilities to charge in a smarter manner, similar to your phones are doing now. Rebuilds, Lambert Lane and distribution. Lambert Lane, right by Richardson Manufacturing. That one is ready to go. We did some preliminary work, and the weather is not cooperating with us right now. As soon as that breaks, we will get started on that. Westwood Terrace Mobile Home Park. We've been doing that in pieces, and I think this year will be the final section of that. And then the next 3, Amos and North Grand, Northgate, Washington and Oxford. Those are in design, so we're hoping to get those done. We didn't do any rebuilds primarily this year because of transformer issues. Those have stabilized. We do have a stock of transformers now. We're still seeing some of the bigger transformers have longer lead times than what we would like to see. But since we have a stock, we're going to try to get those 4 designed and done this year. The other thing we've got is Lincoln Land Community College. There's dual feeds to that are over 50 years old, so it's just preventative on that, get those feeds replaced before one of them fails, and we have to do it on emergency. And then we have a 69 kV line between Reynolds Substation, Factory Substation, and Grandview Substation. There's a Y missing, I didn't see that until today. Well, we're going to rebuild that line today, or this year. On engineering and planning going forward, there is currently a wind farm interconnection that's been designed at Westchester Substation. That's been ongoing for almost 5 years now. They're trying to get their land team together to get the right-of-way into there. So hopefully they get that settled and resolved, and we get to build that interchange out for them. Interstate to Lanesville line, a rebuild design on that. That is a line we had purchased from Silco back in the 70s, I believe. That line is a vital import for us. It's a connection to Ameren and a 345 kV transmission line. The towers on that system are the old steel lattice towers, so it's time to get them out of there. We've lost a few in a few windstorms here in the last couple of years, so we're looking at completely rebuilding that and trying to probably increase the capacity on that also. Energy Services Office, we're going to reopen the insulation rebate program that we used to have. I believe we funded $30,000 for that this year. From the grants, so a lot of these grants, IDOT state planning grant, we were awarded that last year. It's a multi-year project. That's in conjunction with Public Works and us and Water Department. We will be ground penetrating radar. It'll locate all of the underground structures and material that we have in the ground. So that's going to be a huge improvement for us. We have knowledge of what we have in the ground downtown. The next one is a grid resilience grant from the Illinois Financing Authority. That is to replace breakers in critical substations and installing single-phase reclosers. That will help improve reliability and be able to isolate and restore lines quicker for our customers. The charging and fueling from the Illinois Financing Authority, that one is, we'd put this in the original proposal 2 years ago, I believe it was, for 40 level 2 EV chargers in our area. There's 9 sites. Most of them are in high traffic shopping areas. There's some downtown, and there's some at UIS also. So we've been awarded that grant. I don't know when the funds are coming in, but you'll see the ordinances when these get awarded, when these get finalized. DCO Community Solar Energy Sovereignty Grant. This one we have been awarded, and we've kind of kicked this one off. This is the one where we're looking at doing a solar farm and working on getting the excess revenue generated off of that into a project like LIHEAP and for low income, and to be able to support that in additional funds. Some of the other projects we've got, the Integrated Resource Plan IRP that Doug has mentioned a couple times, we're going to look at kicking that off this year. From an energy and capacity standpoint, we are still working on agreement with a 25 megawatt solar farm to be able to purchase that energy and capacity, and I would expect you to see a ordinance on that shortly. Battery storage projects, we're still looking at those. Making the finances work out in our favor has been difficult, and they continue to be difficult, but we haven't stopped looking at them yet, so we're still trying to figure that out also. One of the big projects at Unit 4 is ongoing cooling tower rebuilds. We're just going cell by cell on those. And the electric dispatch center relocation, trying to finalize some design and plans on that one also. And then the biggest thing we've got going on at the plant, we are looking at, it's beginning decommissioning of the plant. So we'll be starting to dismantle. This year, Lakeside Stack and Precip will be dismantled. Unit 33 precipitator, the SCR, the Selective Catalytic Reduction System, and all the ducting work associated with that will be dismantled. 3132 precip, SCR and ducting will be dismantled. 3132 scrubber will be dismantled. And with that, I will turn it over to Doug to finish up.
Thanks, Scott. So for ISD, one of the biggest things we've been working on, we talked about it last year, and then we started it this fiscal, is the upgrade to the enterprise resource planning software. It's the ERP system for the entire city. So it's not just the money that's an important issue, but it's going to take a lot of staff time, from across all the city departments to implement this. Another item is the commercial office servers are getting a much needed upgrade for those servers because they're becoming out of date. And with that, I just want to close with saying that I want to thank the mayor and the council for supporting CBLP and its drive to continue to provide high quality, reliable services.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, and thanks for such a concise, to-the-point presentation. It is the largest cost center and one of the most important. Not that all departments aren't important, but it impacts people's lives hourly, no pun intended. But just 2 quick questions before we get to my colleagues. You mentioned that we're going to have the headcount, authorized headcount in the budget is increased by 15. Could you just itemize for me what those are specifically so I can write those down?
Yeah, so we have the 6 basically for the water side. There's the 4 crew, the engineer tech, and then we have the lineman, which I believe there's 6. So that's 12. And then I believe there is an engineer tech. Yeah, the engineer tech for the solar. But I thought there was an engineer tech, and then there's an apprentice for maintenance at the plant as well. Specifically for the boiler fields group, because we have 2 people that are gonna be probably retiring.
Okay, thank you. And then my other question that I had was, I know you had said in the past, at past presentations, that the street light repairs, not the replacement, the street light repairs at one time were dramatically behind. Are we in better shape than we were a year ago?
Yes, we actually implemented a contract about a year ago, maybe. You know, our line group's done a really good job with using that extra resource to get us back up to speed, because with the derecho storm really kind of set us back for quite a while in catching up. Because we devoted so many resources for so long, and all those continued repairs, even after customers were restored, there's a lot of extra work that had to continue after that. So, yeah, we utilized that resource, and we'll keep that going forward and until we're in good shape, you know, all the way. But yeah, it's going well.
Well, I appreciate the responses that I get when I turn those in, and I just want to say that you mentioned the derecho, but we have snowstorms, windstorms every day, things that go on the electric side and the water side, and bad weather. I see the guys and gals digging up the streets in the middle of the winter when the lines break. It's not always pleasant conditions, and needless to say, and I appreciate those efforts. We should be proud of what we have here in Springfield. We get on quicker. We have clean water. We have, I think, some of the best water in the world. It's relatively inexpensive. We're making investments to make the system and the programs better, and I appreciate the efforts of the entire CWLP team. And on that note, Alderman Rockford.
Yeah, Doug, thank you. A while back, I had talked to you about Walnut Valley subdivision, and you said there was going to be an upgrade done. You talked to maybe Sean Anders or something at Grove Street?
After that?
Maybe? They're losing power quite a bit out there.
Walnut Valley is one of those, we've been working on a little bit of it. I'd have to go back and look. So when we look at what we're doing, in the 3 that I had up there on the board tonight, those are the 3 from last year. We haven't reassessed where the outages are. So what we do is we look at a circuit and say, okay, this circuit's had this many failures, this one's had this many. We're gonna do the one with more failures first. And so I don't know, that was the quick list we had. I don't know that we've reassessed it since last year.
Okay.
So-
But please, make a note.
Walnut Valley, yeah.
You know, look at it.
And the reason they're behind were because of the transformer delays, and because we put in orders a couple of years ago, but they delayed them for so long, so they're going to have to catch up. But yeah, I think
we did know.
We can relook at it though.
We functionally did no rebuilds last year because of transformers.
Okay.
So we're basically a year behind now.
Okay. And then with the AMIs, you know, I know you mentioned, is water going to be included sometime?
You know, the rate increase didn't cover that, so, you know, that was one of the items we couldn't really get pushed on that, so.
Okay.
You know, we'll look at that, though, once the system's up and going, to see if there's a way that we can start switching those, and go that direction.
Well, I just know we talked
Instead
about
of
it, you know, putting it in there and doing a study and see what it would cost. You know, maybe you've done that. I don't know.
With the RFP, we got a price for water and electric.
Right.
And what I can tell you is water was not quite double what electric was, primarily because of the labor.
Yeah.
Because to change
So
the
many
electric meter, you can walk up to it, pull it out, put a new one in, you're done.
Okay.
Water, you gotta get into the pit for the most part.
Well, but you know, while we're doing all these lead line replacements and, you know,
Well, and the water department does do like the conversion of the old meters to AMR, right? So that's, once we get the network up and going, we want to see if we can just step away from the AMR, you know, installations and go right to the AMI and move forward.
Right. And again, I know we talked about, Todd, we talked about, do you have like an update to how many lead lines have been done up to this point? I mean, how many you've done?
Yeah, so to date, we've done just over 800 lead lines.
800.
So, and then over the next 2 years, we're slated to do 550 more. So, it was about 200 last year, little south of 200, yeah. Yep.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderwoman Purchase.
Thank you. On the grant for the charging stations, I see we have 9 sites, including downtown, and you have them at level 2. Now, I know when I charge and I do on fast charge, it takes about 45 minutes to 55 minutes. How many are you thinking we're going to have downtown?
Do you remember?
And off the top of my head.
We did that, I think it was 2 years ago for the first round. We didn't get the first round, we got the second round, but I don't remember where they were downtown. I don't remember the numbers. I know there's 40 total.
That's what I saw.
I don't remember where they are, but we can get you the information.
It's not like they're gonna be peppered all over downtown. You know, there's gonna
Okay.
be some select areas where we're trying to hit.
And
It's just
then,
the funding is
Doug,
not
how
that
did you
much.
determine if you was doing level 2 fast charge? Like, is there any way that we can include a few of the fast charge?
Well,
'Cause I know-
we did try to include level 3, but that got cut.
Yeah, it was.
They cut it.
It was, yeah, it was the grant side.
Just because of the cost of them is so expensive. And it's not just the unit, but it's also the infrastructure it takes to serve them. It's a lot higher, because you usually have to start upgrading your distribution circuits to that area for that work.
Okay. This is still a good thing.
Yes.
That it is coming in. That's exciting to hear, and also making sure people stay near their cars and remove it when it's done and not just leave it there all day. So I do want to make sure.
I agree. We'll have to look into those kinds of things. We've thought about that kind of stuff, you know, to where we're gonna have to figure out how we're gonna handle that with
There's
code
options.
enforcements and stuff like that. You know, we'll get
I
into
got a
that.
few ideas for you since I charged mine.
Okay.
Okay.
There's
Great.
options, but
And then moving over to our energy services office, Scott or Doug, can you talk a little bit about our reopening? So we've had that program before, the installation rebate.
So the installation rebate is, and again, that's been so long, I don't remember the exact details. You have to have so much R value in walls and in your attic, and I believe the attic is up to 38, and I believe the walls are 19. If you can show receipts and that you've done that, then we will rebate up to a certain portion of that. I don't remember the exact details of the program.
And we don't have no income requirements for this particular program.
No.
No
That's
income
good.
requirement, no.
But we'll get something out to everybody too.
Okay.
You know, we'll do social media releases. We'll put it on our blog page. You know, we'll get everything out, and I can email the city council.
These are very helpful
yeah.
programs, because I know a few years ago I brought up the Helping Homes program, or Healthy Home program, and it's doing really good as well too. And I just wanted to commend Ms. Amber, because the information is easy for all of us to share from the CWOP page, and get information out about the programs that we have and the scholarships. It's just really, really good. And then I wanted to thank Scott, because a lot of these photos that I'm able to look at for phase 1 of Unit 33, I'm understanding it a lot more from when me and Alderwoman Nutriano did the tour with you. So to be able to drive around and actually go, you know, into the safe places that we can see, this is really good for me to be able to understand. So thank you for that, and yeah, I'll be coming back again. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderwoman Conley.
Already. Thank you. I'll start with my electric questions since you're standing up still. And really quick, so a couple of things. AMI, and you mentioned the time of use rates. So I know we had the survey that went out, and as I understand, that was a very popular concept, that people would be willing if they got a little bit back in kind. So what kind of thoughts do you have around that, and what sort of planning are you putting into that? Where are we with that concept?
So with the time of use rates, I'll say this, from everybody I've talked to that has tried to put it out voluntarily, it's not a very popular idea, because it makes people change. So one of the things behind that is, until we actually start getting something less than data, or some more data than what we're getting now, whether it's 5-minute or hourly, to be able to see where people are using the energy and how we could influence that, that's the key to designing the time of use rate. You got to know when the people are using it and how we can influence them to change that, whether it's offering a rebate afterwards or a increase in the price of it at that time. You know, we don't know. It's going to be. I know there's a lot of other utilities that are still working on it to get it to work, but I don't know of any that's got it to work yet because most people don't want to change.
Well, and I will say people will change if it's saving them money.
Yes.
Right, so,
Well,
and I think in some of that, and I will say, again, I'm gonna echo Alderwoman Purchase. You have a great resource in Amber with her ability to get that education and outreach in there. So, people who have programmable thermometers and, can program other appliances in the house to run them at off-peak times.
It sounds great, but I'm from the experience I've heard from a lot of different utilities that through different conferences we've been to, getting people to change on their own is difficult.
Is that just in numbers that are high enough to make an impact, or?
That's what I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact details of what they tried. I mean, so those are things we're gonna have to look at.
But one of the important things out of it though is we're gonna give them a choice.
Right.
Okay,
I think that's probably the bigger piece, right?
right.
Whether they actually want, through education, we can try to get there, but I think the first step is just give them a choice. So
And
that's why we're trying to head in this direction.
And I appreciate that, and I appreciate you let's learn from other people's mistakes so we don't have to make those. We'll make our own mistakes and have our own learning curves, and that's part of the process. But I'm really intrigued by that. I think it's an exciting way to kind of, when we talk about that, the load having such an impact on our generation, if we can even that out as much as possible. So, I mean, obviously they don't have you doing it yet, so maybe that'll be the linchpin, right?
Right.
It'll be us. And then, okay, so, because I am excited to see that. I think it's a good step for us. I think especially the education around and awareness around what that looks like and what that actually means. There's a lot of opportunities for growth there. Couple of other practical questions. We talked about pole replacements. I know that was one of our issues after the derecho. Do we have more of a stockpile of just replacement poles on hand now?
Yeah, but poles really weren't, there was a short supply because of how quick we wanted them for
Right.
derecho. But as far as normal supply channels with poles, there's not really an issue with that.
Have you factored in the possibility of another larger scale event to have kind of normal plus?
We have I haven't been out there to look at the yard to see how many poles are there, but we usually keep a pretty good stockpile of poles.
Inventory levels, we raised the minimum quantity.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's kind of what I was asking. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then, of course, that the other question, which I know I bring up frequently, is that concept around burying power lines. I know it's expensive, but I understand maybe we've submitted some grant applications to do some pilot projects.
There was something with it, what was that for?
That was,
Maybe under the hazard mitigation
It was
grant
like Popular
program?
Place. I thought we did.
Poplar Place we did bury. That was part of the grant
Yeah.
application for it.
It was something similar to that, though, I thought that we applied for.
Yeah, there was something.
We'll have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, I'll have to get
But
back to
yeah,
you.
I think that we applied for another grant on one of them.
We can talk about it later, yeah.
Yeah.
I would just like to encourage seeking any sources of funds that we can for that, especially in the older neighborhoods. Ward 8 has, I have an area that was 7, is now 8, and they have a lot of complaints about, the wind blows, their power flickers. It's not, and again, it's not that large, long, prolonged outage, but even those small interruptions, we get to that quality of life, you have things, you're always resetting your clocks, and just having those interruptions be part of your day can be very disruptive. So, want to thank you for what you've been doing to bury lines. I didn't actually even realize, I drove by Poplar Place and didn't connect that. I didn't see that. So, I think that's great as we expand and do larger scale renovations in all parts of the city, that be part of the concept with what we're doing, because I think it's important. Those are my questions for, actually, I have a joint question for water and power. You talked about there's a fair amount of charges for the railroad project. Are we being reimbursed for those expenses?
Currently, no.
No.
Okay.
I believe back in the day, when they, set that project forward, it was basically the city's kind of contribution.
That's part of our.
Yeah.
Skin in the game.
I mean,
Okay.
it would have been nice to get some of that money back, because we've spent a significant amount of our funds, to that project versus
Yeah, I
other
think-
infrastructure
What are we,
that we
it's
could have
over,
worked on.
what, close to 20 million?
I think so, between water and electric. I think water's
Yeah.
pretty high, yeah.
It was a,
Yeah. Yeah.
not insignificant, so, okay. And then, again, another one I've harped on for a few years, I think. What's our timeline for dredging, Lake Springfield?
Well, I would say that, we'll be able to probably bond maybe next fiscal, or, not this coming fiscal, but the FY '27 or FY '28. It's, getting the water fund established in the right position is the first priority. But there's also issues that we have to face with, getting bonds. And I'll specifically mention like the Kern Gardner lawsuit against us is an impact to that, at least in my viewpoint. And but I think we'll see some progress with that maybe in the next year. So hopefully we can get that resolved to where that's not an impact to our future ratings.
I hope so, because I think, one thing we've it's a common theme we have with these budget conversations is maintenance and deferred maintenance. And dredging of Lake Springfield has been deferred maintenance. And I know that the utility does what you can with all sorts of other initiatives and land management. I think there are some areas maybe we could talk about a little more with that, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
It's definitely something that we're planning for.
Yes, I know it
Absolutely.
is, and I want to make sure.
Not in the long run,
No,
in the near term.
The intermediate, yeah, because that was an important part of that bond, or the rate increase was to have those funds, so, okay, yeah, those are my questions. Thank you very much, everybody.
Alderman Gregory.
Thank you. I got a lot of questions, but I'll be brief. I'll stick to budget items. So on the lead service lines, great work on the grants and all that good stuff, no doubt. Todd, what would you say a reasonable replacement? I know we don't like particularly how some of these mandates are. I get it,
Right.
but we are in agreement that we got to get them fixed over time.
We are. We're in agreement that the lead needs to come out of the ground, right? There's no argument over that. It's just what is a reasonable amount of time for us feasibly to complete the work and to be able to finance the work.
Right.
So we had been ramping up towards that 500 level per year, and we think we pretty much had that in hand with the rate increase package and adding the crew and dedicating them to lead service line work.
Okay.
We have currently 4 crews at water distribution. One's dedicated to replacing water main, and we have 3 service crews / maintenance crews doing odds and ends maintenance.
Okay.
To hit 1,000 lead service lines a year, we would have to dedicate 3/5 of our labor over there strictly to lead service lines.
Okay.
And what's even more problematic is I personally don't believe the workforce capacity is built with the local for-profit plumbing outfits to do the customer side right now, so.
I can understand that, absolutely. Thank you for that question. Of course, a high priority, right? Especially in my Ward 2, but I appreciate the work and the thoughtfulness to get the grants for sure. Any movement on different water sales from around the area? Like I know we used to sell to Chatham. No movement on that. Okay.
Not really.
Yeah, there's been no movement on that contract.
Okay. All right. I appreciate you. I just wanted to ask.
They really believe that they've got infrastructure and they've bonded it out a number of years and they need to continue to invest in that infrastructure. Right now, that's their position.
Okay. AMI readers, I'm so happy to hear that. I think that's going to be good in various ways, and I just would always advocate that we see some equity in that we see it spread out and not in clustered in one area. It's hard to explain that to the people a lot of times.
And we'll install them we'll have to install them more by the routes, that we have, because that's the way the billing cycles are done.
Okay.
So we'll hit that, yeah.
On the AMI side, okay.
And of course, as Doug mentioned, we are kind of a little bit behind the curve due to the costs and things like that on the water side, but we are replacing traditional read meters with AMR readers, about 3,000 or so a year. So we are moving to the next step of automation at least.
And like I said, well, maybe, we'll, as we get further in the AMI, we'll see how we can transition from that to the AMI piece for water.
For the water side.
As we go. And technically, it's better to replace them over time anyway, instead of all at once, because then that means they're all gonna be coming due at once again, right? So it's better to spread the costs out.
Okay, all right. I appreciate you. And finally, I'll switch over, well, I guess I'm already on the electric side. Same thing with our LED lights. I'm a big proponent of those LED lights on our main thoroughways, 11th Street, South Grand, Cook Street. I have seen some work there on some new poles for sure. So I appreciate that. Keep up that good work. It's needed. I also think we need to think about, I know it's a cost, but I think we need to think about as we address different things throughout our city. Our officers are working hard and things on violence and things, but we have some areas throughout our city that the interest is only in the alley. Their garages are in the alley. So, and I know traditionally we have to, somebody has to pay for that. It's got to be on some houses. So, I want to work with our neighborhood association, see how we do that. I know some of them got some grants and things from different entities, and so we can work that out. Because it's unfortunate that, way back when somebody wasn't thinking, but that's the only way that they can pull in their garage is through the alley, or the pad, the concrete pad is in the alley. We have a location in Harvard Park when we speak on trash. The regular trash can barely get through there when there's no snow, let alone when it's snow. It's that tight, and that was the area a few years back that we had to help some folks out because that's the only place they can park. So I just wanted to mention that. And finally, our IRP, I appreciate everyone's hard work and putting that in the budget. And I'm encouraging as much public participation. I think there's some very, very smart people that have came and give their opinions. We may not always agree with them.
We, the last process, I think, there was maybe 10 meetings that we had for public process on that. Maybe 7 different, I don't know if it's reports, presentations, or something. So there was a lot. I mean, I know not everybody remembers all those details, but yeah, we had quite a bit.
All right. And finally, my last question. It's a fun thing. I always like to try to think of some fun things, but whose responsibility is the beach house out there?
Well, that's on the water side.
All right. So, as you get healthy, as you get healthy in that department, I think that we have to start talking that and start designing that and what that looks like. I know the mayor has some plans herself.
She does.
I don't really care what it is, but I think we have to start, because, at my age and, talking to some elders, I always hear about how much fun it was out at the lake and da-da-da, and that's went away. And for whatever reason, I guess y'all party too hard. But I definitely think that, getting people back out to the lake and using that, whether it's rented, whatever, driving a little revenue for us, not saying that's going to save the day for us at all. But, these things are great for our people. We need them. They're priorities for sure. But as we free up in y'all section, we definitely got to start thinking about more access to our lake and promotion of those things and to everybody. So I appreciate it.
We do rent out the facility, but we would concur, and I think the mayor would concur, it's underutilized currently. We'd like to gain more use out of that facility for sure.
I appreciate you, gentlemen.
And I know the mayor's, pursuing some grant work to try to, do some more activities that might draw to that location, and then, that might actually attract, some kind of an investor to that location, which would be very helpful. And then eventually, once the water fund's healthy enough, maybe we can devote some funds to fixing up some of the infrastructure inside the building as well, to make it ready for that.
And the last thing I just thought of this, did we put some of those electric car charger things in the Abraham Lincoln parking garage? Is there some in there? I know.
If somebody did, it would have been the state.
Okay.
We wouldn't have done that.
Okay. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman Natriano.
Thank you, Chair. I was expecting to hear something about the gas conversion study. Do you have an update on that?
No, and part of that is So we can convert to 100% gas, but it's knowing the costs associated with that. Then when the federal government came out with their greenhouse gas rule, then it was then what they had was a 40% co-fire, or we didn't look at co-fire. So when we went back to look at the co-fire possibility, then with the election and everything, who knows what's gonna happen next, we've kind of just stopped again to figure out which direction we can go or can't go before we move forward again. So can we convert to gas? Yes. Do we know what the capital cost is? Yes. Do we know what the operating costs are? No, because we're waiting to get all the pieces together from a capital standpoint of functionally, can we do it? And what's that gonna cost to make the equipment work? Then we gotta go back and look at the operating cost. So we're waiting for all the pieces to quit moving, if I could say that, if that'll ever happen.
Don't hold your breath.
But then we can go back and try to nail something down more solid.
We need to have that cost though to put in the IRP though.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'll be an
So that'll
important
be
piece.
something we talk about.
Mhm.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Any other questions for the department while they're up?
Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to thank Todd LaFountain for putting the extra crews in for lead service line replacement that I requested, because it's important that we get that done, so thank you.
Hey, real quick, Chair. Todd, you know, I see we had some grants to help offset the cost for private contractors to come in and help with the, is that from the meter to the house?
Yeah, so it's not exclusive. The grant could be used for the city-owned portion of the work. Currently, we're under contract with 337 where they've got exclusive rights to that work. But what it does for us is allows us to stretch that grant money to many more services.
Yeah.
So it's really a net benefit to us.
And again, like you said, you know, you gotta have enough plumbers in order to.
Yeah,
to do
the
work.
workforce capacity
Plus whatever
needs
else.
to be
Yeah.
built up. We still have only gotten 2 plumbing outfits to bid on our lead service line work. We're hoping that others will jump in the game. There's lots of work to be done, so I guess that's my sales pitch for it, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Alderman. Just a reminder for everyone, first, again, thank you for your presentation this evening. Just a reminder, in the coming weeks, the actual budget and appropriation ordinance will be introduced on first reading, and then it will go to committee, and then it will, there will be a public hearing, and there will also be, not only at the committee, an opportunity for the public to speak, but there'll be a public hearing, and there will be the council meeting. And Tim will get, I'm sure, with everyone to let us all know when the amendments, they prefer the amendments to be to the budget office, and so that we can, if we need to make any changes. They say Saturday of this week, but anyway. I just want to thank everybody for your questions. I know there'll be plenty more, and I know this isn't something, Mayor, that is done overnight. I know you've been working on it, and your staff been working on it for months. And we're going to have a full 2 months to look at the budget. We appreciate all that time that you've given us. And on that notion, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Everybody be safe.
Chairman, if I had more money.